It is election night here in Florida and across the country, and we've got some big races we are following.
So right now we are streaming live across our 10 Tampa Bay digital platforms. We're here to bring you the results as they come in.
Hi there, I'm Carolina Lead. I'm joined with Josh Dorwitz, Courtney Robinson, and Dave Wagner. The biggest races that we're keeping an eye on tonight, the race for Senate and the race for governor.
It's going to be a fun night around here. Plus, we have analysts ready to break down what all this means. Our special coverage of the 2022 election starts right now.
If you believe in actual freedom, vote for Charlie Crist for governor.
You've got the choice to be able to put these people into office. Use your choice.
The people will decide this election, right?
It begins by winning this election and getting people like that out of office.
All elections are important, but this one seems especially more important.
The right to vote is a critical right.
People understand how important their vote really is.
It's just a must. You have to do it.
And we begin with a look at what it looked like at polling sites across the Tampa Bay area here today, seeing a steady stream of people who are heading in to vote all day long at precincts across our area, as this is shaping up to be a record-setting midterm in terms of turnout.
And we love to see the smiles there and the peace signs. So polls show people are more motivated to vote in this midterm election than any other in history. Polls closed for most of us around the state of Florida just minutes ago, but the Panhandle closes at 8 o'clock our time. But we should start getting results really at any moment, so stick with us throughout the night.
In addition to streaming online on our free 10 Tampa Bay Plus app, on Roku and Fire TV, at certain points throughout the night, we're going to be cutting into programming on 10 Tampa Bay to bring updates on TV as well.
And I will be over at the decision desk. That's where we'll be crunching all of the numbers here, because once those results come in, our team is here. We're going to keep you updated on all of that. We'll also have even more race results you can see scrolling right across the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, times it's going to be fast and furious around here. We have a lot to get to, so we also have team coverage tonight. 10 Tampa Bay crews have been out at candidate watch parties all across the state all day, including the parties for Senator Marco Rubio, Val Demings, Governor Ron DeSantis, and Charlie Crist. We also have a team of experts on standby right now. We have former Tampa Mayor Bob Buckhorn, former St. Pete Mayor Rick Baker, and from FAMU College of Law, Reginald Mitchell. I'll be there with them. We'll be talking about the elections tonight.
And we want to explain what we're going to be doing throughout the evening, because we are going to be monitoring races all evening long. Of course, right now you are seeing the state in white. That's because there are no results, 0 precincts reporting. Polls, as we said, closed just moments ago. But as soon as supervisors start pushing out those unofficial results, well, you'll start to see those populate here. You'll start to see these numbers change as well. But first out the gate, we're going to see any moment now will be vote by mail and early vote. So let's take a look right now at where that stands. Out of the more than 14.5 million registered voters in the state of Florida, almost 34% of voters cast ballots early in person or vote by mail, with Republicans slightly outpacing Democrats. Now tonight, I can share some of the election day turnout so far. The state reporting a total of about 2.6, almost 2.7 million hitting precincts today. And of course, there's still an hour to go in the Panhandle. In all right now, total turnout so far, 52%. And as we talk about the Panhandle, we are going to be using results from the AP when they call races, as well as local supervisors of elections. And remember, the AP, they do not call races until the Panhandle closes at 8 o'clock. Now, I want to give you some perspective here when we talk about voter turnout. 2018's midterm elections, where you saw Governor DeSantis face off against Democratic challenger Andrew Gillum, there was 63% voter turnout. Well, we are seeing voters tonight very motivated with a lot of races top ballot down. Carolina?
All right, Courtney, thank you. Yes, it's interesting to see the voter turnout compared to 2018. Of course, a presidential election then, midterm now, but it's interesting to see what turnout we have so far. But of course, the numbers still coming in. We're going to get to the governor's race, the big race that we, of course, are following tonight. Governor Ron DeSantis up against Charlie Crist, looking to take that position. Governor Ron DeSantis really with a huge push there in the end. Eric Glasser is there with the Crist campaign here in the city of Tampa. Eric.
Hey there, Carolina. Well, I got to tell you, if you have covered politics long enough, then you are familiar with the uneasy feeling of a fairly empty room on election night. And currently, that's what we are experiencing here in St. Petersburg at the Hilton in Caroline. I can tell you that the doors opened about a half an hour ago for the Crist watch party, if you will. And right now, I would say that the number of press people doubles the amount of people and Crist supporters who have come into the room so far. Now, again, it's early into the evening, but we'll see what the progress of that is. Crist started his morning here in St. Petersburg, which is where he is from, voting, then holding an Election Day press conference. Talked about abortion, promising that if he is elected on day one, he would sign an order protecting a woman's right to choose. He also took shots at Governor DeSantis' record on education, teachers, the environment, corporate confrontations with companies like Disney. And speaking out about the past 4 years with DeSantis leading the state, and Crist said, "This has been crazy. Florida has maybe been a little bit asleep, but I'll tell you what," he said, "she's going to wake up today."
We deserve a governor who has a heart. We deserve to have a governor who cares about the people. And it's time to put Ron DeSantis out to pasture.
Well, that might be what Charlie Crist has to say, but again, the polls have not necessarily backed that up. In fact, since he won the primary election, there has been a rare poll, if any, that have put him ahead of Ron DeSantis in this race. Now, there was one more poll that took place just over the weekend and into yesterday, and that closed the gap to 4 points. But again, that seems to be an outlier. The vast majority of polls have Crist down by double digits. But we will be here throughout the evening providing perspective and comments if we can pick them up, and of course provide any updates for you guys. Live in St. Pete, Eric Glasser, 10 Tampa Bay.
And just across the bay in Tampa, we have Governor DeSantis along with Attorney General Ashley Moody together hosting their campaign watch parties. And our crews are just now getting into the convention center right now, so we're unable to have them live. But I want you to listen to what Governor DeSantis had to say last night about his race.
We need everybody to make their voice heard. We got a historic opportunity to do great in this county and do great all across the state of Florida. And why not? If you look at what we've been able to do in Florida, we've led the way in this country on so many different issues. You know, you look at how they had with when COVID hit, and you saw how some of these other states were approaching this, locking kids out of school, violating people's rights, forcing shots, doing all these different things. You saw freedom withering on the vine. In Florida, we held the line for you, for your families, your jobs, your businesses, kids' education.
All right, and want to take a look at some of the very first numbers that we are getting in the governor's race here. You can see this is, again, these are vote by mail. These are early in-person voting numbers. The first report, and it looks like the majority of them are coming perhaps from Broward County. You can see some other Democratic counties, so maybe no surprise to see that Crist is leading here at least 60-39 again. These just popped up here. So we're going to see, how is this going to shake out throughout the night? How close is this race going to be? You know, here in Florida, we're used to tight governor's races. You heard Courtney just talking a moment ago about what it looked like back in 2018 when DeSantis ran against Andrew Gillum and how close that was. 30,000 triggered a recount then. Now, a couple areas that we're going to be watching. Obviously, the I-4 corridor. That's always a spot that we watch from Hillsborough to Volusia County. If you're going to perform well in the state, you got to perform well in that area. It's demographically, politically, very representative of the state as a whole. So again, Hillsborough, Polk, up to Volusia County, that's where we watch that I-4 corridor. How are the two candidates going to do there? And then further south, the other big story that we'll be watching tonight, Miami-Dade County. The Republican Party has been pushing hard in Miami-Dade, which has not gone for a Republican governor in 20 years. Last time it went red was for Jeb Bush. So can the Republicans flip Miami-Dade? And if they can, what does that mean for the rest of the state as well for some of these other statewide races? That's what we're going to be watching tonight as, again, we start to get these very early numbers, Court.
And speaking of Miami, our Angelina Salcido is in Miami with Senator Marco Rubio's watch party. The race for U.S. Senate here in Florida, one of the many races that people nationwide will be watching. And Angie, how are things shaping up behind you right now?
Well, Courtney, the doors just opened up about 30 minutes ago, and I can tell you that the mood in the room immediately changed. If you take a look around me, I'm told by his campaign, we're going to see people from his family. We're also going to see, obviously, his supporters, people in the community, but other prominent Republicans that are from the Miami area as well. Miami-Dade, Rubio's hometown. We just heard Josh talking a little bit about the need for Miami-Dade to go to Governor Ron DeSantis. Well, Rubio won Miami-Dade back in 2010 when he was first elected to the U.S. Senate. Tonight, he's the incumbent in this race, running to keep his seat. The polls throughout this election season, though, have actually kept him up against his opponent and Democrat Val Demings. As of this morning, polls show him edging out this race. He was still on the campaign trail yesterday, though, making stops in Jacksonville, Orlando, and in Hialeah as well. His main message to his supporters yesterday was get out and vote.
The people who run the House, the Senate, the White House, they have ruined this country for 22 months. They'll destroy it if they stay in power. That's not an acceptable outcome. We have to win, and we have to win big, and it starts tomorrow.
Now, while he was in Hialeah yesterday, he was actually with Governor Ron DeSantis as well, them two making their plea to supporters in this area. Throughout the night here, we're going to make sure that we bring you guys the latest information. But right now, not too long ago, as we were in that shot from the senator, we actually heard people chanting in the crowd. They are watching the results closely as they continue to come in. So as these votes are tallied tonight, we're going to make sure that we bring you the latest from here. For now, live tonight in Miami, Angelina Salcido, 10 Tampa Bay.
All right, Angie, thank you so much. And from South Florida to Central Florida, we look at his political opponent, Val Demings, who is in the Central Florida area in Orlando, with Emerald Morrow, who is following that campaign. Of course, she has campaigned mentioning many, many times her time in law enforcement.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You know, her being the former Orlando police chief has been a really big, strong selling point for her. It's been something that she has been able to push back from Republicans and what they were talking about in terms of her not being strong on crime, or the Democratic Party not being very strong on crime at all. That is one of the many issues that she has been successful in. But there have been some issues where Val Demings has not been as strong on, analysts say, and some of those issues include one of the labels that Republicans have given to Democrats over the years, and that is the socialism label. They have labeled the Democratic Party as a party of socialism, and this is something that has been very difficult for Demings and the Democratic Party to overcome. But Demings has spent a lot of time in the Tampa Bay area over the last few weeks, stumping very hard, talking about the right to choose, talking about a number of issues that are very important to voters, hoping to sway the undecideds to come her way.
Her spending time here, she's trying to get those undecideds to side with her, and she believes that the right to choose issue is one of the major issues that can finally solidify those voters into her camp.
Now, she is behind in the polls by a few numbers, but again, this is why we have today. This is why we have Election Day, so that we can actually get the official tally of what the people want. So the Demings camp does remain optimistic through this, and she said earlier this week or last week in Tampa that, again, you know, the voters will be the ones who will decide exactly who will be the next U.S. Senator for the state of Florida. Live in Orlando, Emerald Morrow, 10 Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Emerald, that polling consistently showing the Congresswoman down by double digits behind incumbent Senator Marco Rubio. Wanted to give you a first look at some of the first numbers that we're just getting in on this Senate race. Again, these are going to be the early mail-in votes, the early in-person votes that are just coming in, showing very close here as we see. We're getting some reporting here from South Florida, Broward County, some areas around Central Florida, Orlando here. Again, looking at this race, is it going to be close like this all night? Well, likely not, just considering how the polling has showed here. You know, this has been one of the most expensive races in the country. The Congresswoman has been outspending Senator Rubio 2-1 in some instances. You know, how is that going to translate into how much of a difference we might see in this voting here tonight? And again, how will the senator perform down at his home county in Miami-Dade as well? Those are all things that we're going to be watching here as we get these very preliminary numbers. And of course, how is Florida going to play in the overall national picture here when you're talking about the balance of power in the U.S. Senate? Obviously, Democrats still trying to hold on to their majority. Can Republicans chip away at that? We want to give you another look at that here as we bring in my colleague Courtney Robinson to talk more about some of the other races we're watching across the country.
Yeah, and Josh, Florida obviously is very important. It's one of the races that we're going to be watching this evening. Let me try and get this back for you here when we look at the balance of power in the Senate for you. Okay, so this is what it kind of breaks down to. This is what it breaks down to right now. You have a split with Democrats in control. Now, these two seats held by independents, but they caucus with the Democratic Party, so they vote Democrat. That's how you have balance of power for Democrats. Now, will we see a flip? Republicans, they really just need one seat to flip, to go red in order to take control of the U.S. Senate, and we'll be watching that. There are a lot of states that we are watching. We're watching Georgia. We are watching Arizona. We're watching Nevada. We're watching Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Ohio, Wisconsin, New Hampshire, and a lot of toss-ups here. We say these are unofficial results that we're getting in tonight. There's going to be counting well into the morning, making sure that every ballot is counted, that everything is accurate, and then we will know, but we will likely not know the exact balance of power in the U.S. Senate this evening. Dave Wagner is with our analysts who are joining us this evening to provide their insight. Dave.
All right, Courtney, we are here with three familiar people. They were on with us during the primary, and we're grateful they're back with us. I want to introduce Bob Buckhorn, former mayor of Tampa, right here, Rick Baker, former mayor of St. Pete, and Reggie Mitchell, right here. He's with Florida A&M College of Law, also used to be Florida Legal Counsel for People for the American Way and Florida Election Protection Director for People for the American Way. Last time we were here, poor Rick Baker felt like we beat up on him a bit, battered and bruised after our last gathering. You feeling better, Rick?
Well, we'll see. I just had, one day at a time.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
You're working through it.
I kept hearing, he was talking about bullying, and he was talking about bullying. Charlie Crist got out talking about bullying. I just saying, hey, maybe I'm feeling a little bullied here too. So
yeah, you're half the man you used to be, but you're like 6'4", so
I could lose a few.
All right. What are we watching most closely tonight? What races are you looking at here and saying that is key?
Not so much at the state level, because I think the polls are probably fairly accurate in terms of the gubernatorial race and the U.S. Senate race. I think it will be interesting to see how far, if that red wave comes, it penetrates the local level. Some of the local races, like the congressional race in St. Petersburg, you have Senator Janet Cruz over in Tampa. You've got some of the Hillsborough County Commission races. Those are races that I'm going to be watching really, really closely to see whether or not this wave has legs, if you will, or if it's just at the national level. Yeah.
Do you think we're looking at a red wave tonight, Rick, or a tsunami? Well, what do you think?
I think the Republicans could do well tonight. I always count the votes. Let's see, but it's DeSantis and Rubio seem to be doing well, and I believe they will do well. But again, we'll count the votes and see. I'm going to look at the Luna race, Ada Paulina Luna for Congress in St. Pete. Her opponent got $10 million of relative money thrown into the campaign. That kind of makes it an interesting race when that happens. And so we'll see if Anna's able to hold on to that and take that race. But I think also the real interesting thing here is just like everywhere else. It's what's going to happen in the nation, what's going to happen in the U.S. Senate, what's going to be the balance of the Senate at the end of the day, what's going to be the balance of Congress at the end of the day, and how much does that move? And so I think, and the Senate, we may not know by the end of the night.
Yeah. So. Traditionally, the party out of power does better in the midterms. The party in power generally takes it. So it's a difficult time. Reggie, what are you looking at?
Florida has always been a red state at the state level and probably national level, with some exceptions. And so I hope, notwithstanding the polls, that we get some surprises tonight. I'll take one office as a win, and obviously the balance of power in Congress and the Senate is everybody's watching, but I'm hoping we can pull out one surprise victory.
People talk about it being a red state, Rick, but do you believe that Florida is getting redder?
I was going to say, you can tell Reggie's a young man. Yeah. Because when he calls it a red state, he's a young man. Because
we used to have Lawton Charles.
When I was in college, it had been a long time. I think Bob Martinez.
He was the first one.
Yeah, he was the first one.
Claude Kirk.
Yeah, Claude Kirk.
Claude Kirk was maybe the first one, and then Martinez, but there had not been one for a long time, and the legislature with Dempsey Barron and the whole crew up there, the Democrats controlled for a long.
Why has it changed? What's happened?
Well, I think it has become more conservative state. I think I think the Cuban influence in Southeast Florida has been very Republican over the years. Now that's kind of shifted a little bit back and forth, but I think it's getting back that way again right now. And I just think that the Republicans and the platforms of Republicans are what the people are looking for now. But I don't think it's as far apart. I mean, look at this last gubernatorial race 4 years ago. That was won by a hair. So I don't think it seems to be getting a little bit more. But what's very interesting is that I think for the first time in history, there are more Republicans registered in Florida than there are Democrats.
Yeah.
Used to be Democrats registration the whole time.
No, I agree. You pointed out that since 2021, for the first time in a long time, Republicans out-registered Democrats. Now you have the no party affiliation, which is probably just as much as the other two. So we don't know where that's going to split. But objectively, Republicans outnumber Democrats.
But David, you got to have a candidate with a message that can win. And Florida is always going to be a little center left, little center right, but tending to err on the center right side of the equation. And if you have candidates that are out there espousing far left theories or far left proposals, as they say down here, that dog is not going to hunt. And so our candidate selection process, largely because of the primary process and who votes in the primaries, tends to nominate people who are on the far left versus the center. If we had had a centrist candidate in that last gubernatorial election, we probably never would have heard from Ron DeSantis ever again, because I think that centrist candidate would have won.
Well, and I think one switch that did happen was the winner-take-all primary.
Oh yeah.
And so there used to be that you'd have a runoff for the primaries, and so you could not do what Gillum did and get a fairly small percentage of the overall Democratic vote and get the nomination. And you had to then go run against the next person for the Democrat again to see who had the majority of the Republicans or Democrats. Mm-hmm. And that would tend to pull people more towards the middle.
That's how Bob Graham got elected.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what do you think, Reggie, is driving people to the polls this year?
Despite the fact that Roe v. Wade was a Supreme Court decision, I think people want to do something about it probably at the congressional level. So that drove some people to the polls. It's not working in Biden's favor that inflation is as high as it is, because it's always the economy stupid. So those two issues drove people to the poll. And from what I hear, it's been the largest turnout in Florida history. So people are getting to the polls. I think we were terrified from 2020 as to what could happen, and a lot more people on both sides of the aisle are participating in the electoral process.
Do you both agree with that the economy is the central driving force for people going to the polls this year?
Yeah, and maybe subcategories would be inflation, gas prices, and your 401k. And I think that...
Oh, that's the economy, too.
That's what I mean. Those are the subcategories I said of the economy. But I think it has,
I mean, I couldn't agree more. And if you look at the messaging on the Democratic side, it was largely about abortion. There was not an economic message that I heard. Certainly one that resonated. I mean, Biden has accomplished a lot. Folks weren't talking about it. They hadn't packaged it so that it was digestible. It was all about abortion and sort of the special interest politics that Democrats have always reverted to, which is not a winning strategy.
Initially, though, abortion seemed to be polling, and people thought this is going to be unusual, this election. It's not going to be the economy stupid. This time, people seem to be driven to the polls by abortion, but that quickly waned.
It did.
I think Bill Clinton said it best, right? As you just said, the economy's stupid, and you'll have a lot of other issues that people care. I think people care about the border a lot. I do think so. Crime is, I think, very big right now. In different places more than here. New York, it's very big in New York right now. But I think that ultimately people look at their pocketbooks.
All right. We're going to take a break here, head back to the studio here, but I want you, do you feel okay, Rick? You feel too beaten up at this point?
I think I've been okay. I'll be so
He's going to be on a roll tonight, David. I don't have any doubt about this.
Courtney, back to you in the studio.
We certainly appreciate their perspective as well. And, when we talk about turnout at this point, it's looking so far, again, we still have ways to go, about 52.5% turnout right now. That includes early vote vote by mail ballots, early in person, as well as current election day turnout. That's coming from the Division of Elections that we're following and monitoring. I've been over here with my calculator. Carolina can tell you, updating all of this. You know, one seat that we are watching as we talk about balance of power, we don't just look at the U.S. Senate, we also look at the U.S. House, and there are many seats that are up for election in our area. One of those happens to be U.S. District 14, recently redrawn to include St. Pete as well as Tampa. So the two biggest cities in Tampa Bay now in this one district. Our Shannon Clow is live at incumbent Kathy Castor's watch party at her headquarters in Ybor City. And Shannon, have you had a chance to speak with the Congresswoman this evening?
Well, Courtney, we're going to be talking to her any minute now. She's going to come out here. I can tell you right now she is inside. She's with some of her family, her supporters, and I'm sure they're ready to watch those votes roll on in and see what the results are tonight. Kathy Castor looking for re-election for her seat in Congress. You mentioned this is District 14, so for those of you who live in Tampa, parts of Hillsborough County, I'm sure she's a familiar face. She was elected in 2006, so we're talking about 16 years here. She's been doing this job and she is looking for re-election. The big question tonight is her knowledge, her experience, how trusted she is by her supporters. Is that going to be enough to take on the Republican candidate, James Judge? So we're going to be here. We're going to be very interested to see as these votes come rolling in. And of course, you can count on us. We're going to be talking to her in just a couple of minutes here and we'll be sure to report back. I know we have Hannah over in Tampa, so it'll be interesting to see what's going on with Republican candidate James Judge. I'm live in Ybor City. Shannon Clow, 10 Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and from the incumbent, we're going to take a look at the political newcomer in all this, James Judge, who has served in the U.S. Coast Guard, but also a lot of people know him for his work with the Skyway 10K, helping our veterans throughout our area. Hannah Deneen is with James Judge. Have you been able to hear from his campaign just yet, Hannah?
I am at Harpoon Harry's Crab House in downtown Tampa, right next door to the convention center, where James Judge is holding a watch party tonight, surrounded by family, friends, and volunteers. I'm actually joined by James now. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Earlier you were telling me this has been a year of your life and hard work. The polls are now closed. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Either I get my life back tomorrow or I become a congressman, you know? We'll see what happens. I'm just, you know, it's been awesome to meet so many amazing people around the Tampa area, from, you know, everyone, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, my volunteers that have come out, just the people that have been so supportive of this has been a truly awesome experience. I will never forget it no matter what happens. We're optimistic. You know, there's a huge Republican turnout today, but we'll see what happens, you know. We kind of expect to be down a little bit right now with early voting in mail being turned in, but we're hoping that we could climb back up throughout the evening. So we'll see.
And on that note, I mean, Kathy Castor, she's been in this spot since 2007. Right. It would be a long shot for you to win this, but earlier you were saying this is a different Tampa Bay than it was in 2007. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, we're hopeful that's the case. You know, we've seen a lot of folks move here, a lot of conservatives move here. People love our governor and our conservative values that he's represented. But on top of it, they're just tired of, you know, out of control inflation, rising violent crime rates, grocery prices through the roof, gas prices through the roof. It's impacting everyone. So I think that ultimately people are tired of that, and I'm hopeful that the Tampa area will recognize that that's not what we want for our local community or our country, and hopefully get back to some good conservative values and principles and policies that will lower inflation, lower gas prices, enforce the law, and support our law enforcement officers. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Earlier you were saying cautiously optimistic, so we'll be keeping our eyes on this.
Cautiously optimistic, but you know, running for office is a win no matter what. I would encourage anybody who's considering it, please run for office. You know, we need good people that are willing to do it, and a lot of folks are they don't want to get involved with it. They're not sure if they want to do it. Do it. It's a great opportunity. So.
Well, thank you so much, and like we said, we're going to be keeping our eyes on this race tonight. For now, live in Tampa, Hannah Deneen, 10 Tampa Bay.
And we'll be touching back in with Hannah and Shannon as well. But you can take a look at the early votes right here. You can see at this point, again, these are early votes because we do not have any of the precincts reporting right now. But again, early votes, vote by mail, early in person, and you can see incumbent Democratic Representative Kathy Castor with a commanding lead at this moment. But I do want to show you how things have changed. I mentioned that the east side of St. Pete, all of Tampa, heading up to northern Hillsborough and then down toward Apollo Beach. This is the newly redrawn district. Now, if you look back at 2020, the last time that Congresswoman Castor ran, you can see this is what District 14 looked like. So we will see how the addition of part of Pinellas County, this St. Petersburg area, plays into this race. Another area that was redrawn, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about this one, would be District 13, where you have Democrat Eric Lynn with a Republican hopeful Anna Paulina Luna, and of course, you can see the district right there. I do want to get to right now to Congresswoman Kathy Castor.
Thank you for your confidence in me. Things look very good. We've never taken anything for granted in this community and are here and committed to helping our neighbors to lower costs. I know there is an economic squeeze on right now, and I'm going to do everything in my power in the Congress to put money back into your pockets, to lower the cost of prescription drugs, to lower the cost of health care, to lower the cost of energy, to stand up to the special interests in Washington, D.C. that have entirely too much power. We have worked together for many years, and I am committed to public service. It is a tradition in my family. I love this community where I grew up, where I raised my daughters, where I got married and I practiced law, and I just am entirely grateful at this point in the evening that things look good. And again, you never take anything for granted in this business, but I love my hometown.
What about going back to Washington with a GOP majority? How's that going to work for you?
Well, if a GOP majority in Congress is going to roll back what we've done to cut the cost of prescription drugs, to cap insulin, to cut energy costs, then they're going to have a fight on their hands. They are. If their solution to inflation is going to be tax cuts for millionaires and corporations, that I'm not down with that. I'm going to stand up for working people, as I always have, and put money back into the pockets of working people rather than corporations and the special interests.
You're leaving early.
I am leaving a little early. I'm going to let folks go to other parties, but I will be leading a trip to the climate change conference in Egypt, where we depart tomorrow. There will be bipartisan members of Congress going. We know from this horrendous storm, Hurricane Ian, that just devastated the West Coast, and extreme heat and hot temperatures, that we've got to do more to tackle the climate crisis and bring down the cost, unleash solar power, bring more affordable, clean energy. So I'll be on my way in my leadership role.
Do the mail-in ballots tell you something? I know somebody had said you won by 40,000 with perhaps all of them in. Does that tell you something perhaps about the district?
It tells you better hustle in this day and age. You cannot take anything for granted ever.
I guess I mean, does it tell you something about how the turnout or how the results might end when everything's called?
You mean the early totals right now?
Is it an indicator of what might happen at the end of the night?
Things look good. Things look good, and remember, this is a district where I've represented Tampa and St. Pete for many years, and I'm just grateful that my neighbors know me and they have confidence in me and are willing to send me back to serve them.
And you know, that's a big thing. You've been doing this so long, but I mean, we can't ignore it. There's so much talk about this red wave. Do you have concerns of people just voting Republican across the board?
I do, but I work in a bipartisan way to get things done. I've served in a Republican Congress and a Democratic Congress. I've served with Democratic presidents and Republican presidents, and what always comes first are my neighbors here in the Tampa Bay area. I'm raised here. I love this community. Want to deliver for them. I have a strong track record. Obviously, we've got to tackle inflation. We've got to lower costs and put money back into people's pockets. We've got to build a safer community. You know, people always, they say, do you support law enforcement? Of course I support law enforcement and have voted time and again to fund the police, but also to focus on solutions to end the gun violence. epidemic, and then deliver infrastructure investments and good jobs, a clean and healthy Tampa Bay. That's going to be an important focus in the coming years. So thank you all very much for being here, and I love my hometown. Thanks so much.
Incumbent Kathy Castor for U.S. House District 14, standing there with her family, addressing the media as the early results are coming in. Still very early in the evening, 7:30.
Looks like she has a little more to say.
And I just want to thank all of those volunteers and supporters who have faith in me, who have confidence in our campaign. This is a team effort all the way, and we're always going to be here to serve this community. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to continue to do so. So thanks.
Yeah, thanking her team. Certainly, many of them surrounding her since she first was elected in 2006. So we will see how the night progresses as she faces Republican challenger James Judd. Yes, very, very early.
7:35. It's early compared to other candidates we'll hear throughout the night. We have some numbers coming in, so we're going to go ahead and run you through that. What we have so far. This is for U.S. Senate. Marco Rubio ahead there. This is with 20% reporting. He's at 54%, 2.3 million, a sizable lead over Val Demings.
Taking a look at the gubernatorial race with Republican incumbent Ron DeSantis facing off against former governor, current Congressman Charlie Crist. Governor DeSantis with 54% of the vote. Charlie Crist with 45%. Moving on to Attorney General.
And for the Attorney General, she is ahead. We are looking to hear from her very soon. So, of course, stay with us throughout the night with just 1% reporting there. Attorney General Ashley Moody looking for re-election. She's well ahead.
Also looking for re-election, Jimmy Patronis, who serves as the Chief Financial Officer for the state of Florida, facing Democrat Adams Hatterley. Jimmy Patronis taking the lead so far this evening. And then another familiar face, Wilton Simpson, who is the current Senate president here in the state of Florida, running now for agriculture commissioner.
Yes, and right now, yes, Simpson ahead of Bloomer right now.
And then now looking at some of our local House races. This was a redrawn district as well. District 9 with Representative incumbent Darren Soto versus Republican Scotty Moore. Soto 54% of the vote, 59% of precincts reporting. And this is an area that, if we bring it back, just to kind of explain, this was an area that was redrawn and then, of course, took out many of the major cities, including Winter Haven. We're just hearing from our producers, and we want to get to a very important speech.
Yes, Attorney General Ashley Moody is speaking right now. Let's listen in.
I think it's going to be a good night. A historic night indeed. And I appreciate all of you who have traveled so far to share this moment with me and my family and our team. If you are in this room, you are Team Moody, and I am so grateful to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here. This night, what will be a historic win is not just about me, it's not just about you, the team, it's not just about the Republican Party. It is about all of those who chose to live in the great free state of Florida. And from enforcing the rule of law, ensuring the safety of our communities, protecting our most vulnerable, our seniors, our children, pushing back against incompetence coming out of Washington, or pushing back on misuse of power coming out of Washington. This job is extraordinarily important. And I think the way we have handled things over the last few years shows that when you focus on issues, when you focus on doing right by your state, when you focus on protecting the rights of your state and its citizens, you will flourish, you will succeed, and Florida is a shining example of that. I'm incredibly proud to have been a part of this leadership team. But we have to give great credit to our incredible governor, Governor DeSantis, who, when things got very challenging over the last few years, and he knew he had to make very serious decisions, promoting and respecting and ensuring the welfare and safety of his people, he did so with a lens of how do I also protect the rights of citizens. And that indeed is how every government in every state should have operated. But he stood firm in the face of fierce political winds, and I was so proud to stand with him and fight back against illegal mandates, against efforts to shut down entire industries, against overreach after overreach, which would have crippled our state. And I am so proud of the state we are today because of these efforts. Many times you have to make decisions when you know they are right, even when the right thing may not be the popular thing. And that, my friends, is leadership. And that is what I pledge to you as your Attorney General for the next 4 years. I am very mindful that any accomplishment of someone who wins political office or leads an agency is never about the person in this role. It is about so many people that drive the mission every day to protect Floridians. If you're a member, I was gonna make you come up here, but this is a small stage. If you are a member of Team Moody, protecting citizens every day in the Department of Legal Affairs, please raise your hand. I want you to be recognized. Thank you so much. And when I tell you our conversations every day are, how do we go after those peddling fentanyl? How do we protect seniors? How do we protect kids? How do we warn parents? Every day, it's a tireless, exhausting conversation, but I appreciate you sticking in there with me. Thank you, guys. And if you have been in 2018 or are now part of Team Moody, who got us here, raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you so much. And there are so many people in this room right now that are part of Team Moody in so many other ways, whether it was financial support, emotional support, volunteer support, enthusiasm, every bit matters. This is a challenging job. I know I don't need to tell you that. And having people pushing you along and keeping you propped up and making sure that you know that you're appreciated and the efforts are worth it. And when you leave your incredibly handsome husband and son, that you're making a difference, and reminding me of that is so important. So thank you, all of you, Team Moody. Thank you. And speaking of my incredible, handsome husband, as you see here, Justin, he is the reason, I will tell you this right now, outside of my God, he is the reason I am able to stand here in front of you and say, let's go get him another 4 years. This guy right here, while he's busy getting the bad guys, as you know, he's a career law enforcement officer. I could not be more proud of that decision and his professional efforts. But he is that guy, ladies. He's the guy that goes out, gets the bad guys, take care of business, and then he comes home and he's sweet and loving and supportive. He's that guy. Don't be jealous. Don't be jealous. Thank you, Justin. Thank you. I am very fortunate to have so many incredible people in my life that teach me every day. And this young man right here, Connor, he keeps me mindful that every argument is important, every choice of word is extraordinarily important. As he tells me frequently, Mommy, you just got lawyered. He schools me a lot. But I do take that with me to work, Connor, and I am mindful of everything that I do and say. From the outside, it would appear at times that politics has evolved into a blood sport. Game of Thrones has nothing on Florida or national politics, I can tell you from the inside. But I think it's important, and people across the state and nation, as they watch results pour in tonight, they will be glued to televisions, they will be excited for people they've supported, they will be watching every return that comes in. I think it's important to remember the stakes are so very significant. And through the political noise and the strategy and the propaganda, at its core tonight, what has happened, what this win will be about, and we will win. We are leading in, let me just tell you, and you're gonna all get excited, we are leading in 4 traditionally blue counties, Miami-Dade, Osceola, Alachua, and Sheriff Chronister, you're gonna love this one, Hillsborough. But it's so very important to remember that through all of this, through this exciting time, through all of the pundits and the noise and the acrimony and the commercials and the propaganda, what is going on is we are choosing people to trust to govern on behalf of we the people, on behalf of all Florida citizens, to be stewards of our civilized society. And at its core, the best politics is focusing on your job that was entrusted to you by the people and doing it well. Staying engaged, staying proactive, and listening. In fact, Florida's success will depend on our ability to continuously debate approaches to some of our greatest challenges and work every day to improve not only our institutions that carry out the work of the people, but assurances to the people that those institutions are accountable and trustworthy. Both are equally important. The debate will not stop and cannot stop, for that is how we will continue to improve as a state. The oldest boy in our family, who is not with us tonight because he is serving our great country in the Army. And if you are watching, we miss you, Brandon. During a break this summer, I overheard him turn in the card to our youngest son, Connor, and he said, "Every day is a day to improve, Connor." And it touched me so. We learn so much from younger people sometimes. And that is what I pledge to you in this office. As your Attorney General, my first priority will be doing my job well. Fighting to protect our communities, our rights, the sovereignty of the state, but also engaging, listening, and seeking to improve every day. Thank you to the Floridians who have trusted me with this great responsibility. It is my honor to serve you and the free state of Florida. Thank you so much. God bless.
All right, you just heard from Attorney General Ashley Moody, the Republican incumbent there. Give you what sounded like an accepted speech, though obviously this is still very early on in the evening here. Plant City native, Hillsborough County native Ashley Moody, who is going for her second term. Of course, the Attorney General position is limited to 2 terms, 2 4-year terms. I want to point out, too, that her challenger, her Democratic challenger, Aramis Ayala, she is at home tonight. She's not having a watch party, in case you were wondering why we don't have a reporter at that particular event. There is none. But again, Attorney General Ashley Moody out with a lead here to start things, the incumbent. You can see how results are coming in across the state here. 10% reporting. It's not a whole lot. But again, you know, it was expected that she would perform well here this evening. The polls showed that she would. She performed well against her previous challenger when she was first elected, Sean Shaw, and he raised a lot more money than her challenger Aramis Ayala did in this race. Moody has brought in millions and billions of dollars to Aramis Ayala's a few $100,000 that she has in the bank here tonight. So it was expected that Ashley Moody would take this one here this evening. Again, this race has not been called yet, but she is out to an early lead as we're getting some of these early numbers here in this evening. We'll continue to follow this one. Carolina.
All right, Josh, thank you so much. Yeah, we are going to continue monitoring that. Of course, the governor's race, that's another one, a big one that I know a lot of you at home are keeping an eye on, waiting for those numbers to come in. As we mentioned at the very top when we began this digital broadcast, we mentioned how quickly the numbers can change. So we are, of course, keeping an eye on all of that for you. We are trying to get to Liz Crawford with Governor DeSantis. It looks like she's ready. She had to try and get in the building. It can be a little difficult to get in when you have so many people trying to get in that area. Liz Crawford starts our coverage there. Hey, Liz.
Hey there, guys. Yes, we finally made it inside the Tampa Convention Center. We've been here for hours, but I can tell you it is a party inside the ballroom here. Just took us quite a bit to get in here. Security is at a max, and every guest here had to go through a metal detector. Really, the media was only allowed in the ballroom about 30 minutes ago. I want to set the scene for you because now we are established in here. no doubt, it is a party atmosphere. People are packing the ballroom, drinks are flowing, there is a food buffet for the guests that are here. Fox News is playing on the projector, and every now and then you hear roars from the crowd when they show those race results for Florida governor. Now, some have called this the most watched watch party in the United States. All eyes on the Tampa Convention Center, of course, because if things go his way tonight, many speculate that Ron DeSantis will soon make a bid for the White House. So that speculation continues. It's actually been a major criticism from his opponent, Charlie Crist, who famously asked him during the debate if he would serve 4 terms if he wins as Florida governor. Of course, Ron DeSantis dodged the question and put it back on trying to fight against a woke liberal agenda. That has been his focus. He rarely mentions Charlie Crist by name, rather focusing on beating the anti-freedom, anti-American agenda coming from the left. That's part of his talking point. Again, he is a rising star within the GOP, and people here have been showing signs. Ron DeSantis for president, I saw a sign. Of course, Ron DeSantis for governor. Ron DeSantis backs the blue. Again, the talking points that he has pushed certainly on display here tonight. Keeping Florida free, backing law enforcement, keeping Florida schools open. Those are just some of the themes that we see here tonight on display. Now, many folks here were lined up starting at the earliest we saw 4 o'clock. So these folks, they all had a QR code and that's how they got in. But again, they have been on their feet and they have been lining the blocks of Tampa trying to get in to the Tampa Convention Center. Now, like I mentioned earlier, he is now one of the biggest names in the Republican Party. And so much of what catapulted him to that spotlight came in 2020 with his response to the COVID pandemic. Love it or hate it, he really became a celebrity in the last couple of years, especially when he started to push back on lockdowns and mandate that Florida schools stay open, businesses stay open. Then by 2021, he was dropping the masks and mandating that schools drop their mask mandates. All of that became a major talking point for Ron DeSantis and his campaign in just the last couple of months. Now again, it's loud here. I hope y'all can hear me because it is truly turning into a party. People here are, well, right in front of me here is a Trump 24 sign. Trump 24 or before. So you're seeing all different spectrums coming from those here at the Ron DeSantis watch party. What we can tell you is every now and then you hear the cheers from the crowd. You might have just heard it now. Polls have consistently shown Ron DeSantis leading his opponent, Charlie Crist. Of course, we have not seen the governor yet. We believe he's here, perhaps with his family already, but we will not see him, of course, until the race is called. We'll be here the remainder of the time, setting the scene for you and bringing you the latest information from the Tampa Convention Center. Liz Crawford, 10 Tampa Bay.
All right, thanks, Liz. Hey, we are back here with our group of panelists right here. We're getting very chatty, and we've been talking, and it got heated at one point. We'll kind of bring people up to speed. I wouldn't say heated, but you guys
I don't think so.
had a strong disagreement on something here. You know, during the debate, I just want to talk on something Liz was talking about. During the debate, Ron DeSantis seemed a little, stuck when asked, are you going to serve out the full length of your term? He didn't really have an answer for that, and he looked a little shell-shocked at that point. Number one, I was surprised he didn't have a good comeback for that. But number two, do you think Charlie started too late in that kind of hard punch approach to his campaign?
I don't know that it would have made a difference. I mean, he didn't have the resources. The message was lacking. He didn't have the infrastructure or the ground game around him. So I don't know that it really makes a difference. I mean, everyone knows that DeSantis is looking at the White House. It's just a question of timing and whether he's got the guts to take on the guy who made him, which will be an interesting ticket worth buying over the next couple months. And we all know that's going to happen. But so I don't know that it would have affected the governor's race at all. I think it's more a question of how it affects national politics.
Yeah, do you think he'll jump in, Rick, into the race for president?
Well, first I'll answer your other problem is I think Charlie did come out hitting hard. I remember when we were sitting here in the primary, and Charlie came in, and it was a very, very hard-hitting attack against DeSantis from the very beginning. So I don't think he really was...
From primary night?
From primary night forward. And I don't think he ever held back. So I just think it was, you know, I think in this case, it was the two candidates. It was, people kind of know Charlie Crist, and Ron DeSantis is a pretty popular governor. So,
do you think he'll serve out his full term?
I don't know. I think there's, if he has designs for the White House, then this is probably the time to run.
Yeah. Reggie, I want to bring people up to speed about a conversation that was going on while we were on the air here that you did not hear. But Reggie was talking about how he thinks the Republicans coalesce around, a candidate better in some respects than the Democrats do. They may have differing wings of the party, but for some reason they all sort of come together. Can you explain what you were saying about that?
I just think essentially that they have loyalty to the party more so than whatever issue that may be the issue, right? The party that used to be family values and other things, Donald Trump is the essence of everything that the Republican Party was against, but they remain loyal to him. And so he got, 7 million votes less than Biden, despite all the things that he did, right? And you have today, he still leads the Republican Party. So no matter what the issue, no matter what the person, they do remain either loyal to or afraid of that candidate, and it's affecting this nation negatively.
David, there's an old line. Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line.
Right.
And we tend to fall in love with candidates and expect them to be right on every one of these crazy litmus test questions that we ask of our candidates. And if they're not, we end up dissolving into some internal food fight. Where on the other side, regardless of the flaws in their candidate, and clearly in President Trump there were a lot that went against the grain of what I always knew as the institutional Republican policies, they fell in line. And normally sane people started believing and spouting off some of these other crazy ideas that Trump was magnifying. I don't understand it, but the pursuit of power is a heck of an aphrodisiac.
And of course, I disagree with everything these two guys just said. I think that, but I love them both.
Yeah, sure.
So I think that
you have a way of showing it.
I've watched these shows where the Democratic Party has a talking point on bully. Bully was a great example, because we started out, DeSantis is going to be a bully, so he says he's a bully. He says a bully. Charlie Crist gets on the air and says DeSantis is a bully. So you know that there's a talking point floating all over the country, all over the whatever, saying, okay, we're going to call him a bully this week. And then the Democratic Party parrots it everywhere.
But doesn't the Republican Party do that too?
Exactly.
I'm sure they do. I'm just saying,
we call this
it's
projection.
Not like one
He's
falls in
doing
line
exactly
and one falls in love. I don't buy
do.
any of that. I do think that all this kind of Trump this and Trump that and Trump this and Trump that is the Democrats were so busy in this election talking about Donald Trump and abortion, and that's really about all you heard, and that we forgot to talk about. Well, inflation matters to people, and gas prices matter to people, and your 401k matters to people. I can't buy food matters to people. The fact that an open border is bleeding matters to people, and those the Democratic Party is coalescing around these MSNBC issues that we'll see what happens tonight. It'll be interesting to see. But I think if they're not successful, the Democrats, that's what I'm just saying, right? Democratic. The Democratic Party's not doing it. These guys were teaching me how I was supposed to say that. If they're not successful tonight, then I think that's the reason. It's because you're focused on these MSNBC issues and not focused on the issues that people are caring about and hurting. They're hurting.
We've known each other forever. I mean, 3 decades,
right.
More and more, but known you, Bob, for the same length of time.
You still look half my age, but that's
well, thank you. Well, no, what was interesting, we had a conversation on the phone not too long ago, and I said, how do you feel about your party changing, moving to the right? And you said, I don't think our party has moved to the right. I believe the Democratic Party has moved to the left. Do you think that's true, Reg?
The Democratic Party has always had a left wing, and it's probably influential now. And what's wrong with politics now is the right wing, literally right wing of the Republican Party. You had white nationalists in the White House as senior advisors. So yes, we're both kind of beholden to the fringe parts of our party and the primary system. It might affect the candidates coming out. But it's been said that maybe Democrats might do better if they have more centrist candidates. Nobody's accusing the Republican Party of having moderate candidates that are winning. They're fringe candidates, like Herschel Walker. He should never be a candidate in any state. Those are the kind of candidates that are coming out now.
Bob, we don't have a whole lot of time before we need to head back to the studio, but do you believe that the Democratic Party has shifted to the left and the Republican Party is still holding true to their core values?
Yes and no. I think the loudest voices in the Democratic Party have clearly shifted to the left. But I also think that there has been an infection in the Republican Party of folks that heretofore they would never have allowed, never would have tolerated, never would have allowed to participate in anything. So it's a question of the extremes are dominating the process, and we're ending up with candidates that don't reflect the majority of Americans, which are a little center right and a little center left, who only want people who are going to solve the problems that we face, not the crazies on either side.
Agreed.
Quick way in there?
Well, it was originally my question.
Yes.
I should answer it too. I do think, so what are the core values of the Republican Party? The Republican Party 20 years ago was pro-life. They're still pro-life. They were for public safety, law enforcement. They're still for public safety and law enforcement. They were for lower taxes. That's still what the Republican Party for. They're for a secure border, still, for national security, still. The core values, I think, of the Republican parties are still the same. But I do believe that the Democratic Party the president has allowed us to have an open border. Barack Obama was against an open border, but Biden has opened the border of the United States. It is Democratic mayors around the country that have defunded police departments and Democratic state attorneys around the country that have stopped prosecuting criminals. And now, surprise, surprise, we do have massive crime rates. The Democrats never, the mantra used to be, we want legal abortion, safe and rare. That used to be what they used to say. And now we're pushing laws in California now and already in New York to allow abortion through the date of birth. Through the date of birth, which I don't even think a majority of Democrats believe in that. Am I saying that right?
Can I just say
it's so tough to come out of your mouth, isn't it?
I say Democrat, but I can't say Democratic.
Yeah, you can say Democrats. Democratic Party is what.
Okay, Democratic.
Can I just say briefly that both the Democrats admitted to weaknesses within our party, but he stood the party line and gave you anti-democratic talking points.
I gave you what our values were.
But the question was about whether there's any issues with the Republican Party. I didn't hear one single issue with the Republican Party. I heard everything is fine, just as it always has been.
See,
and that's what I think is symptomatic of the problem now with the Republican Party. And since they're the party in power, that terrifies an African American male like myself, because these issues go unchecked. So sedition and racism and all of those things are vogue to say now. Not saying that he says it, but they don't check their own party on what used to be. There was a time they would check their party on those issues.
So let me say something, because I'm going to say this unlovingly. You just put words in my mouth that I never said. You said everything is rosy and great in the Republican Party. I never said that.
I said I didn't hear you say what was wrong with the Republican Party.
I responded to certain things. You only talk for 2 hours. I can't. Yeah. But I will say that I may say there are issues in the Republican Party, just like issues in the Democratic Party. And I think you should not be telling people, saying what other people didn't say. You shouldn't be putting words in my mouth. I just ask you.
You know, it's interesting.
We have some races to call, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more. Okay. Let's go to you guys in the studio.
All right, thank you, Dave. Yes, we've actually got at the top of the hour here now that the polls in the Panhandle have closed. 3 races to call here. I want to start with some congressional House races here. District 12. This is, of course, one of the redrawn districts. Formerly included Pinellas County. Now north of that, and incumbent Republican Gus Bilirakis is going to take that district there. The AP calling this based on unofficial results. 70% of the vote. Again, Republican incumbent Gus Bilirakis will keep his seat in the 12th district. Moving now to Congressional District 14. This is where incumbent Kathy Castor, who we just heard from a moment ago, the AP calling this one based on unofficial numbers here tonight. Kathy Castor will keep her seat, 57% of the vote to Republican newcomer James Judge. And then finally here we are calling this for District 16, Republican incumbent Vern Buchanan. This is parts of Manatee and Hillsborough County. He will also keep his seat here tonight. The AP calling that race based on unofficial results that we are getting in. And then just in here, this is District 11. This is Republican Daniel Webster, 63% of the vote in that race. And that race, again, just called by the Associated Press. Courtney, Carolina?
And it's important to keep in mind, the Associated Press, their policy is to not call races until the Panhandle closes at 8 o'clock. It's now almost 8:05, so these races are coming in fast and furious. And of course, what you are seeing right there, incumbents maintaining their seats, mainly Republicans in this situation, aside from Democratic Representative Kathy Castor, who will once again return to Washington.
Yeah, and we heard from her right around 7:30, pretty early in the night, so she seemed pretty confident when we heard from her, but now we're able to call it from the Associated Press. As we continue getting numbers in 4 races right now.
Yep.
Districts 11, 12, 14, and 16, as you join us at 8 o'clock.
All right, we want to right now go to Governor Ron DeSantis, who is speaking. Okay, Josh, you have another race to call.
But this, in fact, just came in here. The AP is calling this race tonight for Governor Ron DeSantis, the incumbent Republican who's going to stay in the governor role here. I want to take you over to the map and show you this again. AP just calling this one. Governor DeSantis, 57% to 42%. We usually see very tight races for governor here in Florida. You remember back in 2018 against Andrew Gillum just how close it was. But look at the spread here tonight. 57 to 42 to Democratic challenger Charlie Crist. Now, I said we were watching a few areas here. Miami-Dade County, Republicans have been looking to flip that county red for the first time in 20 years for a governor, and DeSantis leading the governor there by about 9 points. That is a pretty substantial margin there in a county like Miami-Dade. You look at the I-4 corridor coming in here, Hillsborough up to Volusia County. We're seeing DeSantis leading in all of those counties there as well. So again, the Associated Press is calling this one for the governor. Governor Ron DeSantis will keep his seat here this evening, defeating Democratic challenger Congressman Charlie Crist. And we are going to go to Liz Crawford, who is with the all right, well, we're going to try and get out to Governor DeSantis and the watch party. But Courtney, yes, you were bringing up a point.
When we look at this race right here with Governor DeSantis and Charlie Crist, one thing that has been speculated is like how this will impact the Senate race with Senator Rubio facing off with Democratic challenger Val Demings, where there's been a lot of money. Will DeSantis, will Rubio play into each other in terms of Republicans coming out and voting and keeping that ticket?
And speaking of which, yeah, you're looking at right there the Senate race where we're at right now with Marco Rubio in the lead, 56%. Really
65% of precincts reporting there.
And it's exactly what I mentioned. We do have Liz Crawford with Governor Ron DeSantis. We're going to listen in.
All right, guys. Well, it is totally erupted inside the ballroom here at Tampa Convention Center. You just missed the USA chants. I'm going to step out of the way and just show you what the crowd looks like. People are jumping up and down. They have their signs in the air. Cell phones are out. And again, people have totally erupted now that the race has been called. We've been here the last couple of hours. The crowd has continued to build, and right now it is totally packed inside the very large ballroom at the Tampa Convention Center. People here, the signs say, "Our governor backs the blue," of course referring to law enforcement. Mamas for DeSantis, mamas for the mission, Florida strong, keep Florida free. So really no surprise here inside the Tampa Convention Center. Polls have consistently showed Ron DeSantis with a very strong lead over his opponent, Charlie Crist. But it is quite early in the night for these folks to really start partying over the victory they not only expected, but the victory that they were rooting for and the victory that they wanted, of course, here tonight at the Tampa Convention Center. We have not heard whether the governor is here or when he might speak. We do know that Ashley Moody, the Attorney General, is also here at the Tampa Convention Center. We've heard that other politicians, other Republican candidates are also here at the Tampa Convention Center. But here inside the ballroom, no one has taken the stage yet. The podium is up there, well lit and ready to hear remarks from the governor. That's what everyone here has been waiting for, not only here inside the ballroom, but since 4 o'clock this afternoon when people started lining up outside the Tampa Convention Center. Now, I can tell you security is extremely tight. Everyone had to go through a metal detector. The media was escorted onto these risers, and some folks were even escorted to the bathroom. So things are extremely tight here in Tampa, but of course, quite early in the night for these folks to have the result that they wanted, and really what they are here for is the main event, to hear what Governor Ron DeSantis is going to say. And it's not just people here in the ballroom. I've talked about this all night. I mean, all eyes are on the Tampa Convention Center to hear what the governor is going to say. So many people speculate he will be making a run for the presidency in the not too distant future. So tonight, of course, pivotal for the state of Florida, but also for the trajectory of Ron DeSantis' career. What the timeline will be, undetermined, lots of speculation about that, but certainly this was step one in his political journey forward. Tonight will, of course, be about Florida, and as he said, keeping Florida red and keeping Florida free, which has been his message the last several years. We'll keep you posted here at the Convention Center. The moment that we hear someone's going to take that stage, you'll be back with me.
All right, Liz, thank you so much. And of course, when we look at the race between Governor Ron DeSantis and Congressman Charlie Crist, former Governor Charlie Crist, DeSantis 54% of the vote, Crist 44% of the vote. And then you look at 2018. So his first bid in 2018 against Andrew Gillum, it was very tight, 50% to that 49% with Gillum as well. So very, very tight there in terms of DeSantis. And one thing that we knew, one thing that everybody hung on during that debate with Charlie Crist and with Governor DeSantis was, will you promise that you will serve all 4 years? And he wouldn't answer it.
Yeah, he wouldn't. And it was a bit of a moment, a nail biter there as people waited for an answer. So Eric Glasser is with Charlie Crist for us tonight with the St. Pete native, as you mentioned, former governor of Florida. Eric, what's the mood like there right now?
Well, as you can imagine, the same way Bruce at the same time, the awareness between what Liz is tonight and where I am tonight here in St. Pete. You guys are able to hear me okay? Before you go, we're going to have to hear me I think we might be having some microphone problems.
All right.
Back to you.
Yep, Eric, we're going to work on that. We'll get back to you. It's live TV. So we'll work on that because we do want to hear what the Crist campaign is thinking here tonight. Wanted to delve a little bit more into some of the numbers here while we're doing that. Again, you can see these are statewide numbers, Courtney? Yes. So 57 to 41 Crist there. I wanted to zoom in on some of the counties that we've been watching and compare to 2018. So Miami-Dade was a big one down here. In 2018, DeSantis lost that by 20 points. Gillum won that by 20 points, and you can see the spread now. DeSantis up by 9 points in Miami-Dade. That is a huge indicator, perhaps, of how Republicans are going to perform here across the state for the time being. Can you repeat again where we're going to go after this? All right. We are hearing now from Republican James Judge in the Congressional District 14, where Kathy Castor, the incumbent, is keeping her seat. Let's listen in.
I'll talk a little bit, I guess just everybody, I'll talk about this again with the press in a minute, but I wanted to address all the volunteers and family and friends first. A race like this is important. We were supposed to lose this race by 20 points, and the way I was just looking at it, I think we're somewhere at like 6.5 points or something. I don't know if who's got the latest number, but we made Kathy Castor spend $1.5 million that would have gone to Democrats. So running a race, a protest race, is important. They're also likely going to redraw this district again. I think it's going to go to the courts. The governor submitted his map this year and made this district really blue, which made it an improbable or unlikely victory. But we did it as well as we could. We didn't jeopardize our integrity. I feel like we ran a good run, and we'll see. I'm going to think about things before I make a decision to do this again. But yeah, so she won by 6.8 points, and that was supposed to be 20 points. So I feel like we did all right. Again, thank you all so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. And
Hearing the concession speech right there from Republican hopeful James Judge for U.S. House District 14, incumbent Kathy Castor, who's been in Washington since 2006, will maintain her seat once again in the U.S. House of Representatives.
And he, of course, got quite a few endorsements on the Republican side. Quite a push to put him in that seat, but it wasn't enough for him to take over from the incumbent. And we're seeing a lot of the incumbents remain in their seats tonight.
Earlier tonight when we spoke to him, he said, hey, either tomorrow I'm going to be a congressman or I'm going to go back to enjoying my life. And so he seemed, his spirits were lifted.
His supporters and all the work that was done throughout the campaign.
Exactly. A lot of work there. We do want to run you through some other races because as the Panhandle is closed, we've started to make some calls here. So let's start to pop them up, and we'll also just bring you up to date on where races stand that have not yet been called, like U.S. Senate.
So we start with U.S. Senate. Marco Rubio, 56%. We've got 69% reporting right now. 3.6 million over Val Demings' 2.7.
It's important to keep in mind when it comes to the Florida Senate seat, too, and all of the Senate seats. These are races that there are a lot of eyeballs on. They want to be very careful and make sure that everything is above board so that we don't have what we saw following the 2020 presidential election.
There's absolutely national attention on that. There's a lot riding on all of those Senate seats.
And you can see right here, we're District 1. These are two controversial candidates. Matt Gaetz in the lead right here with 61% of the vote in the Panhandle. These are early votes. This is Pensacola, Western Panhandle. District 3 as well. You can see Kat Kamek in the lead right here. I think District 4 follows, and that's going to take us over to the East Coast. We have District 9 here. Darren Soto, who is the incumbent in this race. It's a redrawn district. With 53% of the vote, and Anna Paulina Luna with District 13, one of the biggest districts that we are also following in addition to District 14, which was incumbent Kathy Castor and James Judge.
So I'm hearing in my ear that we have James Judge who wants to speak some more. Here we go, listen in.
And all the experts, and so far it looks like the numbers are still increasing in our favor, but it's not going to be enough to win, and that's okay. A race like this is important for a lot of reasons. As a conservative who loves our Constitution, loves our Bill of Rights, standing up for what I believe is the America that I want to live in. We maintained telling the truth this entire time. We ran a really good campaign. We got it a lot closer than a lot of folks were going to give us credit for, and we forced our opponent to spend a lot of money, and we spent a fraction of the money. I think my opponent spent about $1.5 million, and I spent about, total, I think it was like $170,000. I just called Kathy, got her voicemail, and left her a message. And this is something I just encourage everybody to do. I think, not calling her, but what I'm about to say next, which is I told her that I'm not only, I wanted to congratulate her for winning the race, but I told her that I'll be praying for her. She's going to make decisions as we go forward that are important for the outcome of our country. And I'm going to pray for her every single day, and I'm going to pray that she makes the right decisions to lead our country forward. I feel like our country is so divided right now on so many issues, and one of the reasons I ran was that I wanted to have a voice to speak out on these issues. And I feel like the Republican Party has gone down the wrong direction in a lot of ways and has been divisive in a lot of things. The Democrat Party has been out of control divisive in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of us in the middle that are just frustrated with everything going on. So I would encourage people to pray for their elected officials, whether they're Democrat, Independent, Republican. I would encourage people to open their Bibles again and get back to reading the Word. And I would encourage people to pray more often. Our country needs it. We're in a very divided point in American history, and we all want what's best for our country, and we have different ways to get there, but I hope and pray that she does very well, and all of our elected officials, for that matter. I'll be praying for all of them as we move forward. I don't know what's next. I get to go back to work. Might take a couple days off, but will I run again? I'm not sure. We'll see. And I'll take your questions if you have any. Oh, before that, real quick, just the other best part about this whole thing was getting to meet so many amazing people around the Tampa Bay area. There's been so many awesome supporters that have let me put signs all over the place. They're great volunteers. Ernest is here, Sheila's here. There's so many people that I could thank. Dawn and Peter and Luke, and it's just been a great crowd. Sheila's called thousands of people for me. Literally thousands. She didn't want me to give out the actual number, but it's in excess of more than 5,000 people. So it has been just incredible to see all these people come together to support me, and I'm grateful to all of you. Thank you so much. With that, I'll take your questions. Price.
Do you feel the way that this district was redistricted in the whole redrawing that kind of put the Republicans at disadvantage in district?
Absolutely. This district was drawn about as blue as you could draw it. So we knew that. We knew that going into it, and this was a protest run. And we have to run protest races in districts like this because if I wouldn't have run this race, my opponent would have given $1.5 million to other people in other races, other Democrats in other races. And what's frustrating about the Democrats that are in office right now, and I mean this when I say this, I truly feel bad for Democrats that are living out in the populace right now because their party has abandoned them. This is not the JFK Democrat Party that was asked not what you can do or what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. This Democrat Party has abandoned them. And I feel bad for that. So I believe that we need to run these protest campaigns, make them spend money so they can't give it to Charlie Crist or they can't give it to Eric Lynn. I believe in what we did. I think we did a great job and we got a lot closer to a lot of folks thinking about and thought it was possible. And maybe, we'll see what happens, but maybe the party will look at it next time as a target seat. And I think that the court is going to look at it and potentially change the way that it's drawn currently. We'll see. Well, it would certainly factor whether or not I decide to run again. The bottom line is this. Look, again, I'll be praying for Kathy. She didn't debate me. I was the person who won the election for the Republican Party here, and I wanted a debate. And if they draw this more competitive, I'm certainly going to weigh the odds. I think that you could almost bet on it that I might put my hat back in the ring.
You talked about the divisiveness and kind of the extremes on both sides. What is your vision for the future of the GOP?
I would love to see us get back to a little bit more of the Bush-Clinton era in terms of, who would have thought that? But it was just a better time where people were not ready to kill each other. That's dangerous. We're at a really dangerous point in American history, and no one really wants to see that, especially people who have served in war zones like myself.
You've been listening to James Judge there. This is in the congressional 14th district here. We want to call another race here. This is another big statewide race we've been following for U.S. Senate. Senator Marco Rubio, the incumbent Republican, is going to keep his seat and will now go for his third term in the U.S. Senate. The AP is calling this tonight based on unofficial results here. You can see Rubio to Congresswoman Demings, 56 to 42%, a pretty sizable lead. And in fact, we are actually hearing from Congresswoman Demings, who is speaking right now. Let's listen in.
You all know me, and I stand by the decision of the people. We are a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. I know that we had gathered here tonight for a different result, with a different result in mind. But I want to speak for just a moment about our democracy and where we are in our nation. You see, our democracy, it still matters. Am I right about that? But first, let me say this. I am so proud of the campaign that we have built over the past year and a half. Thank you all for being an amazing part of it. And you all also know that I did not get here alone. Countless people throughout our amazing state poured their time, their talents, and their treasure into this race. Whether you made calls in the final days or were with me from the beginning, I am humbled by your belief in this campaign. Thank you. To my amazing staff, they really do deserve an award. They deserve an award. To my campaign staff, thank you all so much. To my congressional staff, who kept the trains running while I was bouncing between Washington, D.C. and the campaign trail. Y'all give my staff, my amazing team, a round of applause. I don't know if Mayor
Listening to Democratic gubernatorial hopeful Val Demings as she gives her concession speech. Republican Senator Marco Rubio will maintain his seat in the U.S. Senate, a seat that will not flip in the 2022 midterm elections. Right now, you've been watching us here on our digital platform streaming. We want to also update our viewers on air right now.
Thank you for joining us for this election 2022 update. I am Carolina Lee. Let's get you caught up on some of the latest race results that we have for you tonight. Let's start with the governor's race and the unofficial numbers there. The Associated Press has called the Republican incumbent Ron DeSantis as the winner tonight. His Democratic challenger and former Governor Charlie Crist with 41% of the vote. We have continuing coverage from both sides tonight. Eric Glasser is live at the Crist campaign party tonight in St. Pete. But we begin with Liz Crawford live at Governor Ron DeSantis' election night headquarters at the Tampa Convention Center, where they are celebrating tonight.
Well, Carolina, it is officially a party inside the ballroom at the Tampa Convention Center. They called the race for Governor Ron DeSantis probably about 15 minutes ago. The crowd absolutely erupted. I mean, jumping up and down, cheersing, you name it. The cell phones were in the air, the signs were in the air, and now everyone here just anticipating when Ron DeSantis will take the stage. We haven't heard yet. We're told we're going to get a 15-minute warning. Haven't gotten that warning quite yet. Of course, he's here on the premises, but he has not made it down to the podium here in the ballroom quite yet. But I can tell you this crowd is ready. Some of them were lining up at 4 o'clock this afternoon in the streets of Tampa to get in here. Of course, they had a QR code. Security is extremely tight, but they were let in around 6 o'clock, and the drinks are flowing. The food buffet is out for the guests, and it is truly a party. It was a party when they walked in, officially a party now. We know the governor himself voted around 10 o'clock this morning because he tweeted this, showing that he and the First Lady were joined by their 3 children to cast their ballots. He called it an honor to cast a ballot for freedom in the fight to keep Florida free. We'll keep you posted here at the Tampa Convention Center. I'm Liz Crawford.
Well, the only thing happening, the same thing here in St. Petersburg as there is over on the other side of the bay in Tampa with the Crist campaign, is that there is an empty podium and a light on it waiting for the contender to speak. Other than that, the mood is very different here. Obviously, about 200 supporters, I would say, possibly in the room at this point. Clearly disappointed when the race was called by both the AP and other news agencies. Charlie Crist is a known commodity in the state of Florida. He was the governor. He was a congressman until he stepped away from his seat to run for governor again here, and he was a Senate candidate. So the spread in this race is also particularly poignant and a little bit difficult for supporters of his. You'll recall that in the last race, Governor DeSantis beat Gillum by 0.4%. This race is probably going to have somewhere between a 9 and 10% spread. So the party faithful and the faithful to Charlie Crist remain here in the room waiting to hear from him, and we expect to hear from him shortly, and we'll bring that to you online And we'll have those comments for you coming up a little bit later tonight as well, guys. Back to you.
All right, Eric, thank you. And St. Pete with the Crist campaign, thank you for that perspective. There are many other races that we are watching for you tonight. Another key race that we are following is Senate. Republican incumbent Marco Rubio versus Democratic challenger Val Demings. The AP has called this one for Marco Rubio. Unofficial results there. We will continue to bring you updates on air and throughout the night online. We join you. We'd love for you to join us with our continuing coverage on our streaming apps, on the free 10 Tampa Bay Plus app, on Fire TV and Roku. We hope to see you there.
And here we are on the And we are still here with you on our digital streaming platforms, on your 10 Tampa Bay Plus app, on your Fire TV and Roku devices. Prior to us updating our television viewers, we were listening to Democratic gubernatorial hopeful Val Demings as she gave her concession speech. She is still speaking right now, so let's go ahead and listen back in.
That's why I ran for the Senate, because we can never stop striving to form that more perfect union. No, it's not easy. It's never been easy.
And we are going to interrupt Congresswoman Demings once again as we head to gubernatorial hopeful Charlie Crist, where he is speaking after Governor Ron DeSantis was just announced that he will maintain his seat.
That's okay. But I want to thank all of you. I really do. And I want to thank Florida. Florida has been great to me my entire life. And I can't thank all of my fellow Floridians for so much for so long. And it's been an absolute blessing to serve as your governor before, to serve as the congressman from my hometown. I feel like the most blessed man ever. And Governor DeSantis, to you and your family, I wish you only the best. And I wish the best to my fellow Floridians, because I love this state. I love her with all my heart. And you're great, good, decent, kind people, and you deserve nothing better than the very best that God has to offer. And I want to thank God. God's real, and God exists, and all glory to God, because we have so much to be thankful for. Please, really, do that. Elizabeth, Kathy, I love you so much. It's great to see you, my wonderful sisters. My beautiful fiance, now we can get married, Chelsea, and her beautiful children. And I'm a happy man, and I am at peace. And I'm grateful to all of you. And I just wish you all the very best. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving and a very Merry Christmas. God bless Florida. Love you.
Congressman Charlie Crist wrapping up his concession speech right there. Former governor,
St. Pete native, has been in political office for many, many decades. It's
yes,
been a,
Republican independent turned Democrat, and in this race for governor, Governor Ron DeSantis besting him 58% of the vote to 41%. So hearing from him right there. We do have some other races that have come in that we are able to call. We want to get to Josh Sidorowitz, who's at our decision desk. And Josh, you have quite a few to get us up to date on.
We do. So we're going to run through them here as quickly as we can. Thank you, Courtney, for that. Let's start up north in District 4. Significant because this is one of the districts that was caught up in the controversial redistricting, wiping out what was a pretty strong Democratic district. Now you can see Aaron Bean, with 61% of the vote, the Republican, will take that race and flip that district there to Republican. Moving now to District 15 here, a little closer to home, the Lakeland-Brandon area here. And you can see that Laurel Lee, the Republican candidate, will take that race there, 59% to Alan Cohn's 41%. Laurel Lee was favored to win that race. Moving to District 17 now, where Greg Stubbe, with 61% of the vote, the Republican there, the incumbent, will keep his seat against his Democratic challenger. And finally, District 18, where Scott Franklin, the Republican, did not face any Democratic challengers. You can see the next closest candidate there was a NPA candidate there. Again, Scott Franklin, the Republican, will take that district, District 18. All right, Courtney, Catalina, back to you.
All right, Josh, thank you so much. And we do want to just run through some of the other races to make sure that you are up to speed. If you are just now joining us here on our digital platform, we welcome you. Thank you for being with us. You can see right here, first we start with U.S. Senate Republican Marco Rubio, the incumbent senator since 2010. He will keep that seat red in the U.S. Senate.
And there we have Governor Ron DeSantis well ahead, taking his seat, remaining in his seat as governor, just about nearly 4 million, really big turnout there.
Right now, we are still waiting to hear whether the AP will call this race. This is the race for Attorney General. You can see Ashley Moody with a steady lead right there versus her opponent, Aramis Ayala.
And we have the chief financial officer, the CFO of the state, Jimmy Patronis, the incumbent there with 57% of the vote. We're at 43% reporting right now.
Agriculture Commissioner, you see Senate President, State Senate President Wilton Simpson with 57% of the vote. Naomi Blamer, 43% of the vote. And next, we are looking at some of the House districts here as well. This one, of course, in the Panhandle. Yeah, Pensacola, Western Panhandle. Contentious because Gates had been under investigation for a child sex trafficking ring.
Never charged, but it was being investigated in that case.
Rebecca Jones set to stand trial in January on charges of hacking into a DOH health system.
And then we have District 3 here, Kat Kamek, with 61%, where the Associated Press calling that one with unofficial results there.
And District 4 or District 9 rather. District 9, we have Darren Soto. This district was recently redrawn. It does represent parts of Polk County. Darren Soto, the incumbent, 53% of the vote versus Republican Scotty Moore.
And there we have District 11, Daniel Webster. This area from Spring Hill up to the Villages. That one the Associated Press has called as well. Then we move to District 12, which has changed really the Gulf Coast. You're looking at Hernando and Citrus.
Newport Richie all the way up.
Yeah, that's
Crystal
perfect.
River.
Exactly. You know the area.
Sweeps it. And you know, this was actually really not a surprise, I don't think, right? Gus Bilirakis, the incumbent, taking office in 2013, maintaining this seat with 70% of the votes.
And this one we're waiting on, really keeping a close eye on. Josh, of course, keeping an eye out to see when this will be called. Still early. District 13, Anna Paulina Luna. This is the one that has changed.
Also redrawn.
Yeah, also redrawn. No longer including the eastern part of St. Pete, Pinellas County, and further north into going piece of Hillsborough. We see there the results right now where we're at. Kathy Castor, another one, of course, redrawn. Yeah, interesting race as well.
Yes. So District 14, of course, with Kathy Castor taking that. Laurel Lee taking District 15. She, of course, is the current Florida Secretary of State. 59% of the vote, a healthy lead over Alan Cohn, who's a former journalist. And then, again, Vern Buchanan, he will maintain his seat in District 16. Also redrawn as well, representing Manatee County and parts of Hillsborough County, which is big ones, Bradenton, Waimama, Riverview, up to the Brandon area.
And then we have District 17, Greg Stubbe, the incumbent, taking that race there. It's Sarasota County, Charlotte County, and Upper Lee County.
And this one, really no surprise, Scott Franklin, currently representing District 15 in the U.S. House, now moving to District 18 as the boundaries were redrawn, 74% of the vote. He only faced write-in candidates. There was no Democrat that qualified in that as well. But
we're hearing from our producer that Eric Lynn has conceded the race for District 13. I have Josh Sadorowicz walking my way with urgently.
We just got the statement from,
Okay, so from Eric Lynn, he says here, I want to thank everyone who turned out for the vote. Our democracy is sacred, and exercising your right to vote is something none of us can take for granted. While I am conceding this race, I am proud that we proved the dynamics of this district wrong, gaining the support of Democrats, independents, and Republicans alike.
And of course, waiting to hear from Anna Paulina Luna. She is an individual that has the backing of Trump, and many looking to her as.
Oh, so we have Marco Rubio about to take the stage.
There you see him on the stage, shaking hands, getting
all the
ready
cell phones
to...
out, ready to get their videos and photos of as he continues in his seat.
You know, what's really surprising here is just how quickly Florida fell to the Republicans in this situation. I mean, we often say this could be a long night, but it was very quickly called for Rubio.
And let's hear what
gathered in the red county of Miami-Dade. First, let me begin. There's so many people I can thank. All of you for coming tonight. I want to begin thanking our Creator God for allowing me to be an American citizen of this great country. His only begotten Son, and my faith is that God became man. His name is Jesus. He walked the earth. He'll come again. And because of him, we will be able to live in eternal life. Obviously, I'm grateful for winning an election, but I'm really grateful for all the blessings I've been given, the friendships, obviously the family, this extraordinary honor to represent this extraordinary state, and the chance to be a citizen of the greatest country in the history of mankind. So I'm going to tell you right now what the media stories are going to be. They're going to be, this is amazing, the Republicans won by 13 points, 15 points. It's unbelievable. They won Miami-Dade County. They must be believing all those Cuban radio stations or whatever they come up with. Guys, you know what? Politics is really not that complicated because Americans are not all that complicated. We're a diverse people, but we're not a complicated people. What Americans basically want is what my parents wanted. It's what all of you wanted. It's what people want all over the world but have been able to fulfill here. They want to be able to have a job that pays a decent wage. They want to be able to live in a home that they own, in a neighborhood that is safe. They want their kids to go to schools that teach truth. They want to be able to retire with dignity, and they want all four of their kids to have a life better than the life they've had. This is not complicated. This is what they want. Now, here's what happens. Sometimes people get into politics, and either they don't know this or they forget it. And so what happens is some of these people go around saying, look, I'm sorry you're paying too much money for gasoline, but you have to suck it up. Because we have a UN climate conference that John Kerry is going to be attending, and we need to impress them. And so ride your bike or take the bus, and forget about how much gas costs and stop being selfish. You know what happens when you tell people that? They vote against you. They vote against you. They go around telling people, listen, don't worry, you can't be complaining about crime. We can't keep locking criminals up. We can't keep arresting criminals. We can't keep funding police officers. Because the only way we can make up for whatever it is they think we need to make up for is not to put criminals in jail. Crime soars, people feel unsafe. And you know what happens when you tell that to working people in this country? They vote against you. And then they go and tell them, forget about our border. We don't need a border. We care more about people that came from other countries. And listen, nobody's going to give this community a lesson about how bad things are in other places. But what country in the world can accept 6,000 people a day? And that's what they're asking you and everyone else to do. Meanwhile, we have veterans committing suicide, veterans who are homeless, veterans that have to fight with a VA, but no, they don't care about that. All they care about is we have to be compassionate for people coming from all over the world, 6,000 a day, and put aside the interest of the American people. When you tell that to people, you know what they do? They vote against you. And this has been going on for far too long. And then here comes election time, and they roll out all their friends, every celebrity, every actor. We don't have any actors really on our side, do we? Do we have any actors? No actors that can get another movie are going to be on our side. They roll out those crazy women on The View. They roll out Vogue magazine. They roll out all these things to tell us how we're supposed to vote. And they think they're going to fool people. And then when people vote against them, they say, oh, it's just information. You were confused. No one here is confused. The people in this country are going to vote for the people that fight for people like them. They're going to vote for people that are going to fight for people that care about being safe, that don't want drugs coming across our border, that don't want illegal immigration running rampant into our country, that don't want to have to pay $4 for gasoline, that don't want to have to pay 22% more than they used to for their groceries. So when you see the results across this country tonight, that's what it's all about. The people who make this country great have been forgotten and have been left behind. And what I'm most proud of is that this community, Miami-Dade, and this state, Florida, a diverse state, you find people in the state from everywhere. You find people in the state from every background. And they have joined this incredible new movement that isn't just going to change the country, it's going to change the Republican Party. After tonight, the Republican Party will never be the same, and that's a great thing for America and a great thing for Republicans. It'll never be the same, because this is a party made up of people from every color, every race, every ethnicity, men and women. Yes, men and women, that exists. And you know what we call people who are black and white and Hispanic and Asian and are men and are women and come from other countries? You know what we call them in Florida? We call them Americans. And that's what they are. They are Americans. And if we're not going to fight for, listen, I care a lot about what's happening in the world. We're impacted by what happens in the world. But my job, first and foremost, is to care about what's happening in America, because the best thing we can do for the world is make sure that America is strong and safe and prosperous. That is the greatest gift we can give our fellow men. So these campaigns, I believe, no, I'm sure, actually, I am the only statewide candidate in Florida that was outspent by my opponent. She has every right to raise all this money. They wasted a lot of money, and I'm glad they wasted it here and not in these other states that we have a chance to win. I'm the only one that raised more money against I'm the only one that was outraised and outspent, and I'm fine with that. I'm 100% fine, because I knew that no amount of money was going to convince people that escaped Marxism and socialism that America should embrace Marxism and socialism. No amount of money was going to convince people that somehow a country blessed with oil and natural gas should be begging Saudi Arabia for oil and natural gas and begging Venezuela for oil and natural gas. But we had a tough campaign, and I owe a lot, and there's a lot of people I could thank, but my campaign manager, Mark Morgan, has done a great job. Where's Mark? Mark. Great job, Mark. Hey, listen. What did Albert Aguirre say? Un americano que va a una fiesta cubano está loco. Remember that line? The translation there is an American that goes to a Cuban party has to be out of his mind. But Mark has done a great job in an extraordinary and diverse state. We are a great state. Thank you, Mark. And one of the things I'm proudest of in the Senate, look, we've passed as many or more bills than anybody else, important bills. Every major bill in America that's taken on China, for example, in the last 4 years have been mine. The Chinese government doesn't like me. They've banned me. They sanctioned me. We had to cancel our vacation to Wuhan because they don't like me. Expensive. They wanted to lock us in the hotel room, apparently. No, look, but I'm very proud of everything we've done in our office, because I have a great staff in our office. One of the things I'm proudest of is constituent service. People call us because they need help. I'm going to tell you right now, guys, please do not wait until the Friday before your cruise to get your passport, okay? But if you do, that's why we're there. And there's so many people in our staff that we need to be grateful to. They do a great job, and they're led by a great leader. That's my Chief of Staff, Mike Needham, who's here. Mike, say thank you to everybody. And, of course, he's filming all this so that, if things were to go wrong, he can say, look, you said this about me on that day. Mike's doing a great job. Both Mikes are. And, of course, look, I owe so much to my family. They are as much a public service. These were once little kids. Now 2 of them are voters. I think they voted for me. And I'm so proud of how fast they've grown up and who they're going to be in their own lives. And obviously my wife, Jeanette, who has been there every step of the way. You can't do this without her. Brevemente en español lo que quería decir es que me encanta estar aquí esta noche en el condado republicano de Miami-Dade. Con la bendición de ser un ciudadano del país más grande en la historia del mundo. Un país que no vamos a permitir que nadie vaya a destruir. Que más nunca vamos a permitir que lo destruyan, porque si no hay Estados Unidos no hay nada. Lo mejor que podemos hacer nosotros para estos países que están sufriendo es proteger a este país, que es un ejemplo de la libertad y la oportunidad para todo el mundo. Y eso es lo que vamos a hacer, a eso lo dedicamos. I'll close with this. On nights like this, we generally do these in hotels, and you've heard this story before, but I tell it because it's important to understand. I was raised by parents that worked in hotels like this. Well, not like this. They had slot machines and stuff like that, but in Las Vegas. My dad was a banquet bartender in rooms like this. My mother was a maid. She worked at Kmart. They worked hard, and you know, their story is really very typical of the American story. Frankly, in any other nation in the world, I would probably be doing the same job, and there's nothing wrong with those jobs. But what makes this nation so special and unique is that it is the one place on earth where people who work those jobs, like the people working here now, can go on to do other things. But even if they can't, the one thing they can always do is give their kids the chance to do all the things they didn't. And I think this is an American story that people everywhere in the country would understand. But why I'm so proud to be from Florida, and particularly from Miami-Dade County, is because we have millions and millions of people in the state who have that story, who are the children or the grandchildren of people who lost everything, who once had dreams and hopes, but those became impossible, and the purpose of their life was to give their kids the chance to do all the things they never could. That's why our parents really never die. That's really why, like, on nights like tonight, they still live through us. Because we are the fulfillment of their hopes and dreams, of all the things they once wanted. You think that our parents and grandparents wanted to work double shifts, late at night, weekends and holidays? They did it for us. And they did it because they knew that we lived in the one country on earth where that hard work could make their life meaningful and purposeful. And through their children, they could leave a legacy. Now, I've just described to you my story, and I probably described your story. But what I've really described to you is the American story. And if we ever become a country where that's no longer possible, then we're no longer special. And so what's driven me my entire life in public service is to protect that. Because I inherited this country. I was blessed to be born here. And I was blessed that my parents lived 90 miles away from here. Because if they had wound up anywhere else on this planet, there was no way I would be standing on a stage like this tonight speaking to each of you. And now, the source of our greatness is not our politics. The source of our greatness is not our elections. The source of our greatness is not our government. The source of our greatness is not our military power, though we need it, and it's not our wealth, though we celebrate it. The source of our greatness is our people, a special and unique people, unlike people anywhere else on the earth. Because here, being an American is not a race, it's not an ethnicity, it's not where your parents are born. Being an American is the defining principle of our nation, that all men are created equal. All men and all women are created equal with rights that come from God, not from your leaders, not from your government, and not from your laws. And our job is to protect those rights. Too many people make politics our God. Politics is not God. There's only one God, and it ain't politics. And the most important house in America is not the White House, it's your house. Because that's where children are raised and values are formed and principles are instilled. And our job is to make sure we always protect the family. We always make it possible for parents to do for their children what my parents did for me and what your parents did for you. That's the American story. It changed the world. It inspired the world. And if you don't like this country, you're free to leave. My office will even help you do the visa. I'm not asking anyone to leave. You know, all these actors always threaten to leave. None of them ever leave. None of them ever leave. After every election, you'll see it tomorrow on Twitter. I'm leaving America because it's become this terrible place, but they never leave. A few move to the Bahamas, but that's for taxes, okay? And that's not for America. And then they want to come back. The point of the matter is no one ever leaves, but you're free to leave, but we're never going to allow anyone to destroy it because we have nowhere else to go. There is no other place like America. There's nothing to replace it. And if America declines, China will be the greatest power on earth, and we will never allow that to happen. I will never allow my children. You will never allow your children. We will never allow our children to inherit a world in which China is the most powerful country on this planet. So, elections matter, and they'll send a message. Don't ignore working people. Don't ignore tax-paying people. Don't ignore law-abiding people. When they tell you they care about these things, it really matters, and they will reward leaders that pay attention to them, and they will punish those who ignore them and put others ahead of them. But I hope the most powerful message that it sends is that no matter how much money you spend, no matter how many press conferences you give about the threat to democracy and all this other garbage, we are never going to abandon common sense. No amount of money is going to convince Americans that men can become pregnant and that America is not the greatest country in the world. And so, I hope tonight, maybe early tomorrow, depending on how long some of these states, they take forever to count. Like, how do we know our vote in 1 hour? We already know who won. But anyway, these states will be counting. But what I hope is I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning, and all of you are, maybe even late tonight, and we're going to learn that there is a new Republican majority in the United States Senate. And why? And that's not just important because of the numbers. Look, it's going to be good not to have to worry every night that Joe Manchin's going to change his mind and now Joe Biden can do whatever he wants, depending on what he wants, if he can remember what he wants. So it's good not to have to worry about that. But the most important thing is we're not just going to elect Republican senators. We're going to elect new people with fire in the belly who know why they're running. They're running to save America. They're running to fight for the working people of this country. They're going to be up there to work and fight on behalf of the men and women.
Hearing right there from Senator Marco Rubio as he maintains his seat in the U.S. Senate as we look at balance of power. Florida staying red, one of the first contested states that we are seeing in this. You have been watching us on our digital platforms. Please stay with us. We're going to take a brief pause as we update our viewers on broadcast as well, and you'll be able to watch in a little behind the scenes look right here with Carolina.
Thank you for joining us for this Election 2022 update. I'm Carolina Lee. Let's get you caught up on some of the latest race results that we have for you tonight. There is a winner for the U.S. Senate. One of the key races tonight, Republican incumbent Marco Rubio versus Democratic challenger Val Demings. Democratic Congresswoman Val Demings really has raised a lot of money. It was not enough for her to take over that seat. Marco Rubio continuing in his role in the Senate. So we're going to check in with one of our reporters, Emerald Morrow, who is live tonight in Orlando, where Demings has conceded.
Yes, she has conceded. This was not the ending that Val Demings was hoping for, but she had a lot of support along the way. You just mentioned the historic amount of fundraising that she has had throughout this campaign, breaking records, even in the last few months, raising about $8 million to help bolster her campaign. So although she was defeated tonight, she did have a lot of support. This is not the end for her. She says that she is very optimistic about what the future may hold, although I must say that right now she has no immediate plans and would not say exactly what she will do in terms of politics. But I wanted you to go ahead and take a listen at a part of her concession speech where she talks about the hope that she has for the future of this country.
In the coming years, American democracy, it will be tested. This is going to be the great challenge of our lives, possibly one of the greatest challenges our nation has ever faced. But I am here tonight to tell you that yes, even tonight, I still believe in America. And I still believe in our democracy.
I asked Val Demings exactly what she will be doing next. She told me, again, no immediate plan. She said she does plan to go to Disney World, and that's something she would do, win or lose. Now, while she was not clear, analysts that I spoke to did say that they could see a future for her as a leader in the Florida Democratic Party or even perhaps in the Biden administration, but she would not give us any comment on that. Back to you.
All right, Emerald, thank you. We have two other races that we just got in here to the newsroom. Attorney General Ashley Moody will continue in her seat for her second term there. CFO Jimmy Patronis will also, the incumbent, continue in his role there. We have other races we want to tell you about. District 14, the race between Kathy Castor and James Judge. How that's shaping up? Well, Kathy Castor has taken the win there, remaining in her seat. Here's another one that we want to tell you about. That is District 13, the race between Anna Paulina Luna and Eric Lynn. The Associated Press just called that race for Anna Paulina Luna. Lynn also just gave a statement earlier tonight, not just a few minutes ago, conceding to that race. We are continuing to follow a bunch of races, a lot of them coming in early. You can see there, District 15, Laurel Lee winning that race, 59% of the vote over Alan Cohn. And we have other races that we are continuing to follow. A lot of the races coming in a little earlier than expected, but we are continuing to update you. So we are continuing on our digital platform. So if you want to continue with us there, please do. This is our Election Night 2022. It is streaming on our free 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. You'll find that on Fire TV. You'll also find that on your Roku devices.
And you are joining us here on 10 Tampa Bay, watching us digitally as we took a brief pause to update our viewers on television. And well, hopefully you have tuned in to us here as well. Welcome to all. We want to get you up to speed on a lot of the races. The top ballot races have been called Senator Marco Rubio, Governor Ron DeSantis, Attorney General Ashley Moody, CFO Jimmy Patronis, and then as well Florida Agriculture Commissioner Wilton Simpson. But looking at the amendments.
So we start with amendment number 1. This is to give homeowners a tax break when it comes to really with flood prevention in our state. With the hurricanes we've had, this has been quite a bit of an issue, really an incentive for homeowners to get above the floodplain, to get their homes in better condition without having to pay extra taxes.
Yes, and remember, each of these amendments, they need 60% of the vote to pass. And this is one of the big reasons why. They're talking about getting rid of the Constitution Revision Commission. It's been very controversial, and a vote yes would abolish the Constitution Revision Commission, allowing voters to put amendments to the Florida Constitution on the ballot.
Yeah. And then we have amendment number 3. This is the homestead property tax exemption for public service workforce. This is an additional property tax break for that group of people. You can see there we're at 58%. What is that? 60% reporting. So.
Yeah, we'll continue to monitor those amendments for you throughout the night. Of course, the biggest thing that we've been following is the race for Senate here in Florida, one of 9 states that the entire country is watching, and the first to be called, and called very quickly, for incumbent Senator Marco Rubio, who has served in the U.S. Senate since 2010. Angelina Salcido is with Senator Rubio's campaign tonight, and we just heard from Senator Rubio. You were translating some of it in Spanish as well, Carolina.
Yeah, as he shifted over. Of course, he's in Miami-Dade County, and we've got Angelina Salcido, who has been following this for us throughout the night. Angie, I'm sure it's a little bit of a party there. I see people kind of wrapping up. What's it looking like?
The energy has definitely changed here. The music was pumped up, and Marco Rubio was just on the stage not too long ago addressing his supporters, his family, his volunteers, and everyone that has helped him get to this point, especially the person who is in charge of his campaign. He basically highlighted the fact that his win tonight is not only big for the Republican Party, but also for the U.S. Senate. Wanted to stress the importance of Governor Ron DeSantis also winning Miami-Dade County and, of course, winning the governor's race as well tonight. He stressed the fact that he wanted to see Republican wins heading into tonight and expects to see them tomorrow morning as well, because there are several races across the country that have not been called yet. But yesterday, when he was campaigning for the very last time, one of his stops was here in Hialeah, about 30 minutes away from here, and that was one of the biggest things that he stressed to his supporters. He told them, I want you to go out and vote, despite the fact that the polls might show you one thing. You never know how it is going to come out. That is what happened today. He was able to pull the majority of support and be able to keep his seat for a third consecutive run. He of course, staying in his seat and winning against Val Demings tonight. Throughout his speech, he made sure that he stressed what he wanted to see change and what he hoped the Republican Party would be able to get done moving forward. Wanted to address the border situation, saying that we needed to make sure that we crack down, make our immigration policies tougher as well. Also wanted to talk a little bit about crime, saying that that wasn't something that was accepted here in Miami-Dade, which is his hometown, but also not something that they are going to accept across the country. And he hopes that if the Republicans gain the majority of support in the Senate, they will be able to pass legislation that will stop that. So we're going to talk to some of his supporters, a lot of them telling us that they felt confident coming into tonight. Definitely feeling confident as soon as they saw his face pop up on the screen there and the race finally be called for them. But Marco Rubio is going to be keeping his seat. He will stick around here, talk to a little bit of his supporters in the crowd, obviously spend some time with his family. It has been some hard work for him over this campaign season, so he's happy to get this win tonight. Reporting live in Miami, Angelina Salcido, 10 Tampa Bay.
And those ads, they were brutal between him and Val Demings.
Yeah.
Yes, that we've all listened to. You know, going through our list right here, Carolina and I were just speaking when we look at the races that have been called. Incumbents, mainly Republicans, keeping their seats, but also Republicans who are career politicians, really. I mean, that they have history. They're veterans. Yeah. They also have assumed office as well.
I'm really curious to hear what Dave Wagner and our experts have to say about
is this the red
results
wave?
that we have. Yeah.
Yeah, if you had any doubt about the direction that Florida politics is going, that it's headed in the red direction, tonight underscores that. Let me just ask Bob, are you surprised? I mean, it is a trouncing of the Democrats.
Yeah, it's not just a surge, it's a tidal wave in the state of Florida. I mean, I'm looking at some of the races in Hillsborough County where it appears as though we have lost a House seat in East Hillsborough County. Two of the incumbent Democratic commissioners on the Hillsborough County Commission have lost. One of them is barely holding on, and largely to virtually unknowns who barely had any money to campaign. So going to the question of money, did money really matter this time? It surely doesn't appear so.
How much the coattails of Ron DeSantis, popular governor of the state of Florida, how much do you think that helped? It certainly brought out some people to the polls.
I think that helped, but I think it's probably bigger than that, because it really is a Republican surge all over the state and probably in the country in a lot of cases in the congressional races. You talk about on a local basis, Ana Paulina Luna, that's a flip. That was Charlie Crist's seat. That's Charlie. That become. With redistricting, it became more of a Republican seat.
It would have been hard for Charlie perhaps to win.
But her opponent got $10 million of family money to put into that campaign. So even with, she was way outspent, and she was still able to win it. So that was a great race for her.
Before we go to Reggie, let's listen in on Governor Ron DeSantis speaking right now.
Yes, fighting for the right to keep our state free. Well, it's taking on the swamp and it's calling out Dr. Fauci. He's the only one fighting for you and me. You and me. Yeah, we're free. Yeah, we're
free. Thank you very much. Well, thank you so much. You know, over these past 4 years, we've seen major challenges for the people of our state, for the citizens of the United States, and above all, for the cause of freedom. We saw freedom in our very way of life and so many other jurisdictions in this country wither on the vine. Florida held the line. We chose facts over fear. We chose education over indoctrination. We chose law and order over rioting and disorder. Florida was a refuge of sanity when the world went mad. We stood as a citadel of freedom for people across this country and indeed across the world. We faced attacks. We took the hits. We weathered the storms, but we stood our ground. We did not back down. We had the conviction to guide us, and we had the courage to lead. We made promises. We made promises to the people of Florida, and we have delivered on those promises. And so today, after 4 years, the people have delivered their verdict. Freedom is here to stay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, thanks to the overwhelming support of the people of Florida, we not only won election, we have rewritten the political map. Thank you for honoring us with a win for the ages. I want to thank all of our campaign staff, from campaign manager Janera Peck down. This was the best run campaign in the history of Florida politics. I want to thank all of our wonderful volunteers who worked so hard to get out the vote. Your support means the world to Casey and I. God bless you and thank you. Now, it's a lot easier to run a good campaign when you got a great record to run on. And I would not have been able to see the level of accomplishments that we saw unless I had outstanding personnel working in the executive office of the governor, as well as heading state agencies. These folks worked hard to implement our agenda. They believed in our agenda, and the results have been historic. Thank you for your support and work. Thank you to Miami-Dade County. Thank you to Palm Beach County. Now, we're still tallying the votes, but it's clearly apparent that this election, we will have garnered a significant number of votes from people who may not have voted for me 4 years ago. And I just want to let you know, I am honored to have earned your trust and your support over these 4 years. And most important of all, thank you to the greatest First Lady in all 50 states, for being a great wife, giving unwavering support, being a tremendous mother to our 3 young children, and serving as an example for women throughout this state, especially going through the battle of cancer. She is remarkable. Now, today, today is the culmination of the 2022 fall elections, but in reality, Americans have been voting for many years now. They've been voting with their feet, and the results of that behavior has been just as stark as our landslide victory today. States and cities governed by leftist politicians, have seen crime skyrocket. They've seen their taxpayers abused. They've seen medical authoritarianism imposed, and they've seen American principles discarded. The woke agenda has caused millions of Americans to leave these jurisdictions for greener pastures. Now, this great exodus of Americans, for those folks, Florida, for so many of them, has served as the promised land. We have embraced freedom. We have maintained law and order. We have protected the rights of parents. We have respected our taxpayers, and we reject woke ideology. We fight the woke in the legislature. We fight the woke in the schools. We fight the woke in the corporations. We will never, ever surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die. People have come here because our policies work. Leadership matters. We refuse to use polls and put our finger in the wind. Leaders don't follow, they lead. We set out a vision, we executed on that vision, and we produced historic results. And the people of this state have responded in record fashion. Now, while our country flounders due to failed leadership in Washington, Florida is on the right track. I believe the survival of the American experiment requires a revival of true American principles. Florida has proved that it can be done. We offer a ray of hope that better days still lie ahead. I am proud of our achievements in this state. I am honored by your support, and I look forward to the road ahead. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race in this first term, and I have kept the faith. We've accomplished more than anybody thought possible 4 years ago, but we've got so much more to do, and I have only begun to fight. God bless you all. Thank you very much. Thank you for a historic landslide victory.
Quite a bit of excitement there in the room with Governor Ron DeSantis.
Standing by his side. First Lady Casey DeSantis. Yes, they will return to the governor's mansion in Tallahassee. If it will be for 4 years, that is the question of the hour.
Which we saw in the debate, absolutely, when it was point blank asked of him by Charlie Crist.
Yes, so. Governor Ron DeSantis. This has been very, very quick so far, as we've seen. Within the hour, really. Polls here closing at 7, polls in the Panhandle closing at 8, and shortly thereafter, we were able to call the AP called the race for Governor Ron DeSantis seeking his reelection in 2022. And we want to go over to Josh Sidorowicz. Josh, you have some other races that we have been calling as well.
Yeah, well, we were actually just going to delve a little bit more into the governor's race, if we could. Get me to the governor's.
I gotcha. Don't worry. Give me a minute.
All right, Courtney's got my back there. All right. So you heard the governor just thank Miami-Dade County. That is a county that in 2018, Andrew Gillum won by 20 points. And you can see tonight, that's almost the same margin that the governor has taken Miami-Dade County. That is a huge shift down there. We come in closer to home here, Hillsborough County. Gillum took that county in 2018 by 9 points. You can see Governor DeSantis with a similar margin there, 10 points. Pinellas County, where Gillum won by 9 points in 2018. The governor is up 11 points there. So just to give you an idea of how some of the math is shaking out and why you heard such exuberance from him and why Republicans are feeling so good tonight is because these are some big shifts in the votes that we, compared to just a couple of years ago when the race was so very close then. A few other races here that we've called here in the course of the evening. Attorney General Ashley Moody, the incumbent, she will keep her seat as well. Agriculture Commissioner, Trump endorsed Wilton Simpson, the Republican there, taking that seat 56-43. And then CFO, the incumbent Republican Jimmy Patronis, also maintaining his seat. A good night here for Republicans statewide across Florida. Courtney, Carolina.
Yeah, Jeff.
And right there you see the Agriculture Commissioner. This was the seat left open by Nikki Fried. You can see that former Florida State Senate President Wilton Simpson winning that race handedly right there. Yeah. So just a lot of races coming in, a lot of races being called. We can go through many. One thing that we are also watching, Caroline and I have been checking in throughout the night, is the balance of power in the U.S. Senate, in the U.S. House, and looking at the U.S. Senate, 9 o'clock, that's when we saw Arizona and Wisconsin close, so just 18 minutes ago, and that's going to take some time. We also, obviously, Pennsylvania is one that's going to take quite some time, as well as Wisconsin. That we're
watching North Carolina as well. I believe we have
some sound from Wilton Simpson.
So let's listen.
It was an honor to serve as, the reopen committee chair for Governor DeSantis. It was a real honor to live those 2 years in the free state of Florida to make sure our small businesses remained open, to make sure that our kids went back to school. Look at the results now nationwide when the state of Florida has the #1 universities and college in the country 5 years in a row, and our K-12 system is now #3. And within a few years, because of all the parental choice things that we've done the last few years, we'll be #1. And so that tells you how bright Florida's future is. And what's happening tonight is not just going to happen in Florida. We're rejecting socialism, we're rejecting wokeism, and and Biden inflation. And so it's a real honor to be here.
All right, hearing right there from the Agriculture Commissioner for the state of Florida, the future Agriculture Commissioner for the state of Florida, Wilton Simpson. And he is just echoing the sentiment that we have heard from Senator Marco Rubio, from Governor Ron DeSantis, that this red wave is not going to just be Florida, but we're going to see this nationwide. We do want to check in with Dave Wagner, who's with our analysts, and I know that they have been talking about this all night long and, of course, weeks prior too.
Yeah, Bob, you were just saying this is not just a kind of a whipping, this is a...
Yeah, this is good old-fashioned butt whipping across the board, up and down the ticket in races that never normally would have been competitive, in places where Democrats had much more money and a historical advantage. We're losing across the board. We're just hemorrhaging blood, and I don't know that it's going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah. When you watch this tonight, did you predict it would be this overwhelming, the red wave tonight?
Well, early on, it seemed like the Democrats were gaining momentum, a couple months ago. But it has seemed for the last several weeks that the momentum on the behalf of the Republicans was growing and growing. And it is pretty overwhelming. Pinellas County, on the local level, we were talking about Luna's race and winning Congress tonight, which is a great win for her. Also, a county commissioner seat flipped, and Pinellas is now a majority Republican county on the county commission as well going forward. And Charlie Crist lost by 11 points in his own county. Yeah. So it's big.
Reggie, let me ask you, winning a campaign is all about mobilizing voters. What did the Democrats do wrong this time? Why couldn't they get people out to the polls in the numbers they needed in order to win some of these races?
It's hard to tell, but clearly nationally, the enthusiasm level wasn't where it needed to be. It's always difficult in a midterm election. The history is always on the side against the party in power. So that was already inuring to the benefit of DeSantis and the entire state of Florida Republican Party. So it turned out even greater, however, than as expected, right? So we had maybe 1 or 2 seats at the state level, and we've lost those. So until there's a sense of urgency, maybe Republicans gaining the national level again, that's probably going to be what's going to be necessary to bring the enthusiasm back, to bring out voters like never before for Democrats to win again.
I will point out that oftentimes when there's been a whooping going on for one party, that doesn't necessarily mean the incumbent president's going to lose. That was true with Donald Trump, but it wasn't true for many previous presidents.
Right. It happens sometimes and sometimes not. But I also think, of all the talks, the speeches we've seen tonight, I like Marco Rubio's the best. I think he talks about, issues matter to people. And when a mom can't buy gas and can't pay for the food and the issues that are going on in the country right now, I think they Bill Clinton said it best years ago. It's the economy, and I think the economy's in really bad shape, and the border issues, and I think collectively that's had a big impact on the race, even in the state of Florida.
This felt very much Ron DeSantis speaking tonight, speaking to a huge audience. Of course, people around the country listening in on this. Felt like his first speech in a presidential campaign to me.
It was. I mean, he was laying out all the points that would resonate with Republican primary voters around the country. I fully anticipate over the next 2 years we're going to see nothing but Ron DeSantis checking red meat boxes for all of those primary voters with whatever the latest crazy idea is that has nothing to do with Florida and will not benefit Florida. But he needs to check those boxes and make a show of it so that he can cut into Donald Trump's base with those primary voters.
One thing to point out about DeSantis is he won 4 years ago by the narrowest margin in state history. And today, he may have, he won by maybe the largest that in my memory, and certainly the largest in decades.
Why do you think he did?
Well, I think certainly the issues that I just referenced are part of it, but part of it, I think people think he did a good job. I think people, if you win by 19-20% as an incumbent governor, people think you did a good job.
You've got Reggie laughing over here.
I think it's far less the issues that he espoused. I think he benefits from people seeing, they took stock in the fact that he's a presidential contender, right? And they see already that if Trump gets in again, he's probably the only candidate that can lose to Biden. And so I think they wanted to keep DeSantis and keep him strong. And I think that's why he won all over the state.
All right, need to go back to the studio and our team there.
Please stay with us. We're going to take a brief pause as we update our viewers on television, and you can stay right here watching us via the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app on Fire TV and Roku, or if you're streaming us from 10tampabay.com or YouTube. Stay right here. Again, a brief pause. Carolina is going to provide our television audience with some of the winners that we have seen this evening.
Thank you for joining us for this election 2022 update. I'm Carolina Lead. Let's get you caught up on some of the latest race results tonight. Governor Ron DeSantis will be spending another term in the governor's office, beating challenger and Democrat Charlie Crist tonight. Our Liz Crawford has been with the governor's campaign all throughout the night. We're going to check in with her to see how things are going there. Hey, Liz.
Well, the ballroom here at the Tampa Convention Center is thinning out quickly, and that's because all of these people came to see Ron DeSantis, and he already took the stage a short time ago. He came out here with the First Lady, Casey DeSantis, and their 3 young children. Then he sent the children behind the stage to give a few remarks. Here's some of them. Take a listen.
We made promises to the people of Florida, and we have delivered on those promises. And so today, after 4 years, the people have delivered their verdict. Freedom is here to stay.
You know, right after Governor DeSantis said that, the crowd erupted chanting USA, USA. He said this is a historic win for the ages. He went on to thank his volunteers and his family, but he specifically talked about the voters that he got this year that he didn't get 4 years ago, and he thanked them for earning their trust. We'll have much more from the Tampa Convention Center on 10 Tampa Bay at 11.
Well, Senator Marco Rubio set to keep his seat for a third term. He was the incumbent in this race. He has won against his challenger, Val Demings. He addressed a crowd that was here to see him and cheer him on not too long ago, stressing the key issues that he believed got people out to vote.
The people in this country are going to vote for the people that fight for people like them. They're going to vote for people that are going to fight for people that care about being safe, that don't want drugs coming across our border, that don't want illegal immigration running rampant into our country, that don't want to have to pay $4 for gasoline, that don't want to have to pay 22% more than they used to for their groceries. So when you see the results across this country tonight, that's what it's all about.
Senator Rubio stressed all of the Republican wins across the state of Florida tonight. His own, of course, Governor Ron DeSantis, and also congressional member Mario Diaz-Balart, who was here in support of him as well. He's hoping that he will wake up tomorrow to a Republican majority across the country. For now, we're live in Miami. Angelina Salcido, 10 Tampa Bay.
All right, Angie, thank you. Big wins for governor and Senate. There are many other races that we are watching for you tonight. We're going to start with District 14, Kathy Castor, the incumbent, winning that race there against James Judge. Next, we're going to look at District 13, Anna Paulina Luna going ahead and taking that seat from Charlie Crist, who vacated a seat as he was running for governor. She won, and Eric Lynn has conceded that race. So we will continue to bring you updates on air throughout the night. We are also streaming live. Courtney Robinson, we've got Josh Adorowitz, Dave Wagner, all with us. You can continue following the races there at the bottom of your screen. You can also follow us right now on our free 10 Tampa Bay Plus app, on Fire TV, and your Roku devices. You can also catch us on YouTube. But again, those results scrolling on the bottom of your screen. And we are back here on our digital streaming platforms. You have been watching as we took a brief pause to update our broadcast audience. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Yes, and so we're going to run you through just a couple more races that we have tonight, some of the results that we have coming in for us tonight. This is District 9, which represents parts of eastern Polk County, as well as Osceola County, the Kissimmee area. You can see there Darren Soto winning that race with 53% of the vote.
And we want to move to a local legislative seat for the Florida House. This is Florida District 61. Linda Cheney, who currently is the Republican incumbent for District 69. This, again, during redistricting, it looks the exact same as District 69 District 61 looks the same as District 69, which includes Pinellas County, St. Pete Beach, Linda Cheney, besting Janet Warwick there, 56% of the vote to 44%.
And we're going to check out the Hillsborough County transportation tax referendum.
This one has been tough.
This has been
a court
really
battle.
tough. Yeah, a big court battle. In the end, appellate court judge issued a stay on this one. So,
well, and then put it back on the ballot.
And then put it back, and now, so there's going to be challenges there.
No matter how it goes. Initially, it was on the ballot, then it was removed, it struck from the ballot, then it was added back to the ballot. No matter how this goes, whether it's a vote yes or a vote no, there will be legal challenges to the 1%
about the
increase.
wording in it.
It was over the clarity of where the money would actually go.
Yeah.
That was the question right there. That remains back and forth, the question on that one, and we'll stay on top of that. And then there are amendments, of course, that are outstanding as well. Those need 60% constitutional amendments that we're watching in addition to that.
Okay, and our producer was saying something in our ear as we were talking there. I think she wants us to move too.
Oh, okay.
We have Governor Ron DeSantis. Let's go ahead and listen.
We have embraced freedom. We have maintained law and order. We have protected the rights of parents. We have respected our taxpayers, and we reject woke ideology. We fight the woke in the legislature. We fight the woke in the schools. We fight the woke in the corporations. We will never, ever surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die.
Hearing right there from Governor Ron DeSantis, right here in 2022, receiving 59.3% of the vote to Charlie Crist, Democratic challenger. Charlie Crist, 40% of the vote. And when we look at the difference in 2018, it was very, very tight. This was Governor DeSantis' first run against Andrew Gillum, the Democratic challenger there, and it was 1% difference in that situation. And again, we are still seeing the numbers change as these are unofficial for 2022. But I mean, it is a much larger margin, and Crist is a very well-known name in politics in Florida, whether it's Republican, whether it's independent, whether it's Democrat, because he's switched parties. But in the end,
shows you where we've gone in 2 years. Now, of course, the midterm elections can be drastically different from a presidential year when it comes to turnout.
Yeah,
but
that's true. This one, as we have told you, and you've heard this at home, that this was going to be a historic midterms in terms of turnout and interest. And we know that during midterms, this is when parties flip.
Depending on who's in office.
That's right.
The president in office and what voters think about the job they're doing at the time when it comes to, we've heard it from voters, inflation, the economy. We've, heard from voters about abortion, but a lot of the discussion has been on, their family. How am I going to feed my family?
One thing that stuck out to me, we were just listening to Governor DeSantis speaking, talking about the woke culture that he and the legislature have spent a lot of time on, and obviously there's been a lot of controversy back and forth, both in our state and, of course, nationwide, about laws that have come down. When, he was pointing to this is where Floridians want us to be. This is what Florida wants. This is and when you hear that and you look at that, he's saying this is the reflection. And when you look at such a large margin, is that the reflection? Yeah. And are we going to see that in other states as the night goes on?
Yeah, and we did hear as he was running for governor for re-election that he mentioned, parental rights when it comes to the classroom and what they're learning and so forth as part of his campaign and what he has done for the state of Florida, and voters have spoken. All right, so we're going to listen into Charlie Crist, his opponent in this race, as he concedes this race.
Give us 1 second. We're trying to pull that up for you. Congressman Charlie Crist, obviously, as we said, former Attorney General. He has definitely made his name a St. Pete native. Earlier this week, he said he was hopeful. He was hopeful going into tonight.
It's been an absolute blessing to serve as your governor before, to serve as the congressman from my hometown. I feel like the most blessed man ever. And Governor DeSantis, to you and your family, I wish you only the best. And I wish the best to my fellow Floridians, because I love this state. I love her with all my heart. And you're great, good, decent, kind people. and you deserve nothing better than the very best that God has to offer. I'm a happy man, and I am at peace, and I'm grateful to all of you, and I just wish you all the very best.
All right, you just heard there from Charlie Crist. Want to go back to the Senate race here and kind of delve a little bit more into those numbers here that we've been getting in on the decision desk. You know, obviously this was the race, one of the big races to watch here in terms of spending nationwide here. Polling showed it probably wasn't going to be close, and obviously tonight it has not been. Again, Senator Rubio, the projected winner here, 57 to 41%. I want to compare that to last time he was reelected in 2016. Similar margin there, but in his home county, Miami-Dade County, the senator has never surpassed the 50% threshold. Didn't do it in 2010, didn't do it in 2016. Sure enough, though, in 2022, he did exceed the 50% threshold there in Miami-Dade County, which has been a big win for Republicans here this evening. And we were talking too, and Courtney, you had brought this up earlier, comparing voter turnout 2022 to 2016. It was pretty good turnout then. That was a presidential year.
Yes.
In 2016, it was about, you said 70%?
I think it was 75%. 75% turnout in 2016, and you know, we're still trying to get the numbers in to look at turnout for this midterm election. But when you look at that different, I mean, the spread, right, with 75% of voters. And now I'm not sure how many registered voters there were in Florida in 2016. In 2022, there are 14 million.
14.5?
Yeah, 14,503,978 registered voters in the state.
You know what's been interesting to watch with registered voters, too? Republicans have stayed fairly consistent, whereas the non-party affiliated and Democrats have essentially swapped from where they were just a few years ago.
We were talking about this. It was interesting to see because when you look at so registered Republicans, obviously Republicans out-registered Democrats, but then there were 3.99 million non-party affiliated voters. And so where were those basically 4 million voters going to go? And what were they going to do
How's it
this
gonna break?
midterm? And were they going to show up? You know, it's going to be interesting to know, Josh, if those who showed up and where, because we don't know we just know about voter turnout on election day. We don't know the nitty gritties right now.
Yes, it'll be very interesting, and I know you get into that in the next couple days to really delve into that, because it really does tell a much larger story.
It does.
About how voters are feeling, and especially just to see the shift in registration alone.
And to see who's right? Like to see who's claiming. Right now, you're hearing Republicans saying they're showing up, voters are showing up for inflation, they're showing up for crime, and then you are hearing on the other side they're showing up for more social issues. They're showing up for abortion, women's reproductive rights, and so it'll be interesting to see. And Florida, obviously, will Florida be the bellwether state? Will they be the bellwether state for the nation? That's yet to be seen, because as we're looking, we're still waiting. Arizona, Wisconsin, Nevada's not yet closed yet. The 20 more minutes for Nevada here.
You were comparing the years, right? So I'm on the Florida Division of Elections.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to go by the year 2016. So you have 14.5 for now. This was a total.
They had 13 million. Yeah, registered, but and then turnout was 75%.
Yeah.
Well, and they said a lot of the post-pandemic new registrations here in Florida did favor Republican registration. So even though overall that number stayed consistent, just based on who was leaving and who was going, it's sort of equal.
But it has been quite the red wave, and we have had to hear from many Democrats offering their concessions, and now we want to listen into Democratic challenger for U.S. Senate Val Demings in what she had to say. Listen.
In the coming years, American democracy, it will be tested. This is going to be the great challenge of our lives, possibly one of the greatest challenges our nation has ever faced. But I am here tonight to tell you that yes, even tonight, I still believe in America. And I still believe in our democracy.
Let's see if I go.
All right. So you just heard there from Val Demings, of course, who had to concede. Yeah, who had to concede in that race against Charlie Crist. We are, keeping an eye on, of course, the balance of power, looking state by state to see how other states are pulling in. But you heard from Marco Rubio from Miami as he addressed his supporters, and he talked about,
Oh, well, no, I mean, as you say, like when we talk about the polling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying you're going to hear, you hear, 13% and the media saying whatnot. And what we also heard from the Associated Press, too, was that Republicans don't poll. They do not answer polls. So you're missing a huge voting block.
Yeah. So we're going to go to Jennifer Titus.
Jennifer Titus is with Attorney General Ashley Moody, who has now won a re-election for her second term. Attorney General limited to 2 consecutive 4-year terms. And Jen, she was there with all of the big heavyweights.
She was, Courtney, and she had planned to take this race before those polls even closed, just because of what the polls before tonight were saying. I got a text around 6 o'clock that she would be speaking about 7:30, even though the race wasn't called yet. She spoke at 7:30, and it sure did sound like an acceptance speech. It was the only time that she did speak tonight, but she won this race by more than 20 points. She called it a historical night, a historical win, saying major counties who are normally blue turned red tonight, and that's what led to that major lead against her opponent. She talked about the 3 major issues going forward into this term, of course, about elderly fraud, robocalls, and the fentanyl crisis. After she spoke, she also had the newly elected Agricultural Commissioner Wilton Simpson also spoke along with her tonight, and about an hour later, she then made her way onto the stage behind me with, of course, Governor Ron DeSantis. So a major night for all Republicans in the state of Florida that are now holding newly state elected offices, including Ashley Moody, like you said, going for her second term, again, winning this race by more than 20 points.
All right. Jen Titus live for us at the Tampa Convention Center, where we have seen much of the Republican Party. We saw Agriculture Commissioner, soon to be Agriculture Commissioner-elect Wilton Simpson there, along with Ashley Moody, Governor Ron DeSantis, and many more who've also won re-election. We do want to talk about some races that involve the Florida legislature, individuals they will be dealing with. Okay, we can say that this race has been called. This is a huge upset here. Jay Collins, the Republican newcomer, 55% of the vote to Janet Cruz, State Senator Janet Cruz, 45% of the vote. Janet Cruz has been, which she's currently with District 18 and now with District 14, which is just because of redistricting, which represents most of Hillsborough County and Tampa. She has been in the Senate since 2018, but she has served in the House of Representatives since 2010. So again, the Florida Senate seat for District 14, again, that state Senate seat, that is a huge upset right there. And now looking to District 60.
This is close.
Yeah, this also, District 60, this is currently held by Jackie Toledo. She stepped down as she ran for Congress unsuccessfully, but Florida State House seat, District 60, still, again, very close. We have not yet called this, the Associated Press not yet calling this as well. And this is another one. You've seen the ads, right? You've seen the ads between Karen Gonzalez-Pittman and Jen McDonald for District 65 in the Florida State House. And that would be South Tampa into the West Chase area. That's the seat that's currently held by Speaker of the House, Chris Sprouse. All right, and so we'll continue to stay on top of those. We also have the amendments that we're following. We're following the transportation tax referendum and many other ballot initiatives that are out there as well. And as for the major races, those have pretty much fallen very quickly.
Yeah, very much so with the incumbents in those races for the most part. And yeah, mostly, I mean, Republican as you look down the list and how quickly this all came in.
This was a little bit unexpected, I think, especially after primary night, as we kind of were going on. But, seeing right when 8 o'clock came shortly thereafter, voters showed up. Voters, they went to the polls, they showed up. And, it'll be interesting to see how all of that breaks down in terms of where those votes from non-party affiliated voters went, because that was the big question as well. But it seems they went to Republicans.
Yeah. So we're going to go back to Dave Wagner, who's with our experts.
Yeah, they can probably offer better analysis.
A lot of analysis over there. Hey, Dave.
Hey there. We're here with our three analysts right here. We've got Bob Buckhorn, Rick Baker, two former mayors here from our area, and Reggie Mitchell as well from Florida A&M University. Hey, let's talk, if we can, about can you really sway voters these days? How many voters are out there? I mean, it would seem to me, when you look at the politics, it is a very divided electorate out there. Can you really sway voters these days, do you guys think?
Well, I think this governor's race is proof of that, right?
Well, I mean,
4 years ago, this was the closest election in Florida history for the governor's race, and 4 years later, 20%. There was a shift of 20% of the electorate.
But does that mean you're swaying voters? Does that just mean you're mobilizing voters better?
Well, I think it's both. It's both. But I think clearly the mood of the voters was different this time than 4 years ago.
We're a country that's divided. And if you look at some of the critical counties around the country that voted twice for Obama, twice for Trump, and then came to Biden in 2020, clearly there is a percentage of people that are persuadable. And that's who you end up fighting over every election, is that's 10% maybe of folks that are willing to swing back and forth. Because the rest of them are locked into their positions, whether they're, the facts are to the contrary. They're going to stick with their team, and it's that 10% that's persuadable that decides these elections.
I mean, there are some people, Reggie, who feel intimidated by going to the voting booth. They're afraid of it, and those people sometimes stay at home, would like to vote, but sometimes are a little afraid to go out there. Do you think that's a sizable enough percentage to influence an election?
I think a party will try and influence that. I mean, with this whole election police task force, that probably played into some of that. And they started arresting people who thought they could vote, and that sent a chilling effect to other people, hearing about the 20 people that were arrested that were former felons. So it'll be interesting to see in the morning how things actually panned out. But we have right now no party affiliation that's about as many Republicans as Democrats, right? Those are the people that are clearly persuadable. We don't know how they'll go, and it'll be great to see the analysis in the morning.
When you are able to get Miami-Dade and Palm Beach counties to turn and vote for Ron DeSantis, that says something.
That's a tidal wave. Yeah. That really is a tidal wave. And I would agree generally with both of their comments that you've got this 1/3 independents now that are probably the most persuadable. You probably can get some Republicans to vote Democrat, some Democrats to vote Republican, but you're able to sway the independents the best, right? But I would normally say agree 10% is kind of the middle, but again, we had a 20% shift here. Maybe it's partly turnout, but I think it's more than that. And in a county like Pinellas, which is generally a bellwether county, which went against DeSantis 4 years ago, went for him against hometown Charlie Crist from Pinellas County.
I know, and I used to work with the Democratic Party. Right now, there are 14 counties that are Democratic, but they tend to be the larger counties. So we used to always be able to rely on turning up the vote, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, Broward. When I see Miami-Dade and Palm Beach going in a different direction, that's kind of earth-shattering. That has to concern Democrats. So we need to figure out what caused that and how we can undo that.
Yeah, we're going to work on getting your mic battery is dying here, so we're going to replace it. But let me just ask, when you looked at Ron DeSantis speaking today, we talked about how it felt more, sort of like the first speech of his presidential campaign. How much do you think that drives Donald Trump nuts tonight as he's sitting at home thinking, oh my gosh, this guy is a force to be reckoned with in a presidential campaign?
Well, I think just like he threw a plate of food in the White House, I think he threw another plate of food at Mar-a-Lago. The difference is he has to clean it up himself. I think the ticket this year is going to be to watch Donald Trump turn on Ron DeSantis. And devour him like he has devoured everybody else who has stood in his way. And he is particularly offended by the fact that he thinks he made Ron DeSantis. He's like a mafia boss, and the underboss just turned on him. And so I think he's going to go after him with a particular vengeance. We saw some of that this week as he started with the name calling, which is his trademark first, salvo, Ron the Sanctimonious. And I think you're just going to see more and more of that, and those two are just going to go at each other, and it's going to be better than watching Top Gun 2.
Rick, who would win that fight when it comes to a race between Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump right now?
I think Ron DeSantis has been a very strong governor. He just won the third biggest state in the union by 20% in a state that hadn't been done in a long time, if ever. And he is, I think, he's nationally known for caring about, sticking to, and having the courage to face down the issues in the state of Florida, despite the fact that he's had much of the national media beaten on him for the entire term that he was in office. So I think he would, if he decides to run for president, I think he'd be a great presidential candidate, and I think he'd be formidable.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he could beat Donald Trump right now?
I don't know that I would predict that one right now, but I think he'd be a formidable candidate.
I mean, you look at Donald Trump, and when he won, it was a fractured, group of. I mean, there were so many Republican candidates running for office. Donald Trump got his core audience there, core voters, and was able to, win based upon because he got a majority of the fraction. Do you see that happening this time around?
I think there'd be a lot of. There'd be a lot of people to make, if that winds up being the case, be a lot of people have to make difficult decisions, because I think there's a lot of people in the country, a lot of Republicans, that like Donald Trump an awful lot and like Ron DeSantis an awful lot. Yeah. And so they'd be having to make a difficult decision. Be interesting to see how the two would separate themselves in a campaign. But I would go back. I think some people underestimate Ron DeSantis. I think that's a mistake.
We're about 2 minutes away from cutting, but just a quick question here, just yes or no. Do you feel comfortable with the tone of the politics these days in this country?
No, I'm scared for our future.
Yeah. What about you?
I think it's nastier than it needs to be, but I wouldn't limit it to the politicians. I would include the media on that too.
Reggie?
I'm terrified.
You're terrified of it? Yeah, I know your mic's still not working. We're going to take care of that next time we come back. All right, back to you guys in the studio.
Alice, thank you so much. You have been joining us here on our digital platforms as we stream across the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app on Fire TV and Roku devices, as well as YouTube, 10tampabay.com. We so appreciate you joining us here. We're going to take a brief pause as we stop to update our broadcast viewers and cut into programming so that they are up to date on what's happening with the 2022 midterm elections. And of course, across the bottom of your screen, right there, you are seeing all the races as they have been called and as they are called, including the referendums and other ballot initiatives that we are watching as well. Carolina, we're going to toss it over to you.
Thank you, Courtney. Thanks for joining us for this election 2022 update. I'm Carolina Lead. Let's get you caught up on some of the latest race results tonight. A big upset in the Florida Senate race for District 14. Jay Collins has beat incumbent Democrat Janet Cruz in that race with 55% of the vote. One of the key races tonight also is for Florida's Attorney General. The incumbent Republican Ashley Moody has won the race against Democrat Aramis Ayala, the state's first black state attorney. Tonight, Ashley Moody is celebrating victory. Moody told supporters tonight she is proud to be a part of the Florida leadership team, giving credit to Governor Ron DeSantis for fighting against mandates. She expressed her gratitude earlier tonight at the Tampa Convention Center.
This night, what will be a historic win is not just about me. It's not just about you, the team. It's It's not just about the Republican Party. It is about all of those who chose to live in the great free state of Florida.
Ashley Moody, of course, thrilled to remain in office there. There are many other races that we are watching for you tonight, and that includes Governor Ron DeSantis, who will be spending another term in the governor's office, beating challenger and Democrat Charlie Crist tonight. He gave his victory speech within the last hour.
We set out a vision. We executed on that vision, and we produced historic results. And the people of this state have responded in record fashion.
A big crowd there tonight. There are some other races that have also been called tonight. Republican incumbent Marco Rubio has held on to his Senate seat versus Democratic challenger Val Demings. The AP has called this one for Marco Rubio. There are some other races that are impacted by redistricting maps drawn earlier this year. We start with a check out the race for Congress. Here's how the District 14 race between Kathy Castor and James Judge turned out. Castor, the incumbent in that race, the winner there. Here's a look at another race. District 13, that race between Anna Paulina Luna and Eric Lynn. The AP called that race for Luna. Lynn also gave a statement earlier tonight, an email conceding to that race. And you can continue to follow all of these races at the bottom of your screen. You can see all of the information there. We are continuing to follow not only some of our state races, our local races, but we also have the national races that we're focusing on as we look at balance of power. You can see the constitutional amendments that we're looking at here. This is Amendment 1 that is up for consideration by the voters. It needs 60% of the vote in order for that to pass. Right now you see the yes vote at 57%. We're moving right over to Amendment number 2. That has 54% of the vote. Again, needs 60% in order to continue. That is that group of 37 members who look at the Constitution. It goes that the governor appoints. And then we have Amendment number 3. This is that homestead exemption for certain groups to continue and to get additional exemptions on their properties. Right now, 59% for that. We are continuing our coverage of Election Night 2022. We are streaming all of this information on our free 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. That's on Roku, as well as you can find us on YouTube. Our staff continuing tonight with our reporters. We hope to see you tonight at 11 for Nightside.
It has been a busy night here at 10 Tampa Bay and, of course, across the state of Florida. We've had a wonderful team, and we still have a wonderful team out and about for you. They're all out and about. They've been working very hard, but the races came in very, very quickly. They were called.
It's a deluge.
Yes. Well, you were there at the decision desk. You've been there at the decision desk.
Yes.
Some races outstanding, but we do, and you've been with our analysts as well, providing insight. And so we, of course, have many races that we need to run through.
Let's do it right now. One of the big statewide races here, incumbent Marco Rubio. Senator Marco Rubio will go on for a third term, besting Congresswoman Val Demings, 58 to 41%.
Another big race right there. Florida's next governor, Ron DeSantis, will stay in the governor's mansion in Tallahassee. Will he stay for 4 years? That's the question.
Yeah, that's been the question. And your analyst, Dave, of course, tackling that question tonight. Attorney General Ashley Moody going to continue in her role as the Attorney General of our state.
And then we go to the Florida's Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Patronis, winning handily right here over Adam Hattersley.
Now running you through some final top ticket race, Commissioner for Agriculture, Wilton Simpson right here.
Trump-endorsed Republican, yes, will be the next agriculture commissioner, of course, after Nikki Fried, who tried to run for governor, stepped down from that position, and No,
Mr.
it'll
Charlie
be a Republican.
Crist.
It was the only Democrat statewide seat.
That's true. And on the
this
cabinet.
point.
She was the only Democrat on the
Democrat
cabinet.
on the cabinet.
It is really, it's a remarkable night for Republicans, though. I mean, and it's all about mobilizing votes in these elections. Can you get your base out there? And then once you've gotten your base out there to commit, how do you convince some of these independent voters to move in your direction? And we saw that down in Palm Beach County, which is an amazing feat, which is a heavily Democratic county. Miami-Dade, the same thing. That's really difficult to do. So
It's pushing those issues that really matter most to voters.
that's
to get them
true.
to turn
I mean, this is not just a wave. It is definitely a tsunami of red tonight.
And a big upset locally when we talk about State Senator Janet Cruz after being in the Senate since 2018, but being in the House of Representatives since 2010. A major upset, losing to Republican challenger Jay Collins with 55% of the vote right there. You see it right there on your screen. This is a huge local upset for Tampa.
The headline for tomorrow morning, I'm sure. A lot of people waking up to seeing that
And
result there.
Republicans overall having a good night in the Florida legislature. I think if they haven't yet, are close to getting what would be a supermajority in the legislature, which would allow them to skirt some of the chamber rules and other things. They've been in control for a while now, but this would really allow them to kind of cruise through here as we
And
start the
despite what's going on locally here and statewide, it can be a very different picture nationally. So we're keeping an eye on that, and we'll certainly have a wrap-up of that coming up tonight at 11 o'clock.
Maybe not even a wrap-up, though, because that could go well. That could go well.
We can't cover everything, no doubt about it. It's a big country, and there are a lot of races, but we'll try to hit the big ones, and certainly the balance of power. Balance of power. Yeah, it will go on for a while, but it's been a fascinating night, and I know a thrilling victory for Republicans out there, the agony of defeat for Democrats, but things change. This is very common in midterm elections.
And we will see you tonight at 11 o'clock for Nighttime. We'll have a wrap-up with all of our reporters, and we will, break down the night and where we go from here, looking to tomorrow.
Democracy in action. There you have it.
We appreciate you being with us. Thanks very much, and we'll see you back here a little later.